Nobody Named Kevin podcast, episode 15. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Is anybody in this chat room named Kevin?
I'm afraid not, sir.
I wouldn't keep living if I was.
Okay.
Just
All
go
right.
full edge
So,
on it, bro.
what do we got going on so far?
I mean, to be honest, I haven't really done much this week. Just watching shows. I got back into Borderlands 3. That's about it.
Dude, nice.
Speaking of callbacks, okay, I was going to go somewhere else, but yes, I went down the rabbit hole of the speedrunning Spore, but what that led me to, speedrunning Bloons Tower Defense 5. And I'm like, dude, I used to crash my old iPhone on Bloons Tower Defense because the level would get too high, and like I could get to the same spot every time. I couldn't finish the level, the iPhone would crash. It was back when I had like I think it was a 5.
Dude, for a period of time there, I bought Balloon Tower Defense 6 for my phone because I was just bored. I was like, you know what, I'll play it, see how it goes. I haven't touched it. I played it for like 2 months straight and then just stopped playing it because I got to levels that I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong.
Good game.
The guy had a strategy. He had the strategy of how his speed run was like 0 to level 22 or something like that. Like as far as XP, not just like the round.
Mm-hmm.
It was something weird, but the strategy is like it's I don't know, it's everything. How you overthink it. He actually just uses like 3 starter monkeys, and then like gets like 3 ninjas, and then like 2 snipers, and then he deletes the regulars, replaces those with ninjas. Basically has like 5 or 6 ninjas, maxes them out, maxes out the snipers. He gets like, and then 1 freeze one. He gets like the most basic stuff because like as you unlock stuff, you're like, oh, this is cool. Put it here. This is cool. This is cool. It's like, no, if you just max that out, and then he gets like 2 super monkeys, and he's like, and 1 buccaneer, he's invincible. And and the reason he clusters it is because then he throws the tower, maxes out the tower, so they now have all those buffs. Everyone on his field has those buffs. So it's just a matter of if you just stick to the basics but max it out, you're basically undefeatable.
Well, dude, see, the problem in Balloon Tower Defense 6 is, like, it's not just one level. There's multiple levels. So, like, while you can do, like, I had strategies for the basic ones, but then you get to the higher ones, and you have to find the strategy that gets you off the ground to be able to get to that point. That's always the hard part, is finding the correct strategy to get to where you need to be.
Like, yeah,
it's crazy that this is a game that has strategy and stuff now. I remember playing this in school, like on a free website.
Dude, yeah,
it's what it developed.
Yeah,
into,
when you finish your assignment. Yeah, when you finish your assignment, it was like balloons, bro. But that was like Balloons Tower Defense 2 or 3, and then
3.
But everything there's a niche for it, like because then the Spore was an hour long, then there was a 30-minute long, then there was I beat Spore without evolving, like. What?
How?
Yeah, yeah. And then it's not just that. Plants vs Zombies had a speed run, dude. That was a solid game. That was a sleeper hit, dude. Like I remember because I had it on the laptop that one weekend, and I just wouldn't get off it, dude. That was solid.
So what's funny to me about the speedrunning community, though, there is like a point in which it becomes like, what game has the best mechanics? That's what they consider good ones. Like if it has enough mechanics for you to mess up, and it's not a huge RNG base, but mechanics that are a little difficult to mess up, like you could mess them up, that's what determines like good speedrunning games. Like that's what's mind-blowing to me. So like people used to speedrun like the old James Bond game. The problem is, like, it did not come down to skill after a certain while. It just came down to luck, and that's when they're bad speedrunning games. You want them to become skill-based.
Yeah, with, like, a little bit of the... Like, because, like, dude, there's people that speedrun Kingdom Hearts 2. I watch a lot of those because they have good strategies for fighting any of the bosses because they just melt them in seconds. It's funny. What's funny is that every speedrunner for Kingdom Hearts 2 uses the Japanese version because the screen, like, there's
The
little
dialogue's
nuances that are quicker.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm like, just the level that those people will go to, they know the Japanese, not the language, but enough language to know that.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
yeah,
dude,
they know which ring is which. They know which ability is which.
Yes, like they've played the game so much to a T. Like, what's funny is, like, they'll like in most speedrunning communities, they will have, like, on the speedrunning websites of, like, English, like, glitchless, like, there's categories, and they will play so much in the English version that they know exactly what they need to do without reading it, and at that point, switching over to language doesn't bother you at all. I think the weirdest ones that I ever saw was, like, Sly Cooper 2 and 3 are always weird because there's certain points, like, they've gotten so technical in it that at a certain point, like, oh, you change your language here for this one, but this one you change it back to this. Like, it's just so complex of how developed that community is. Oh, it's insane.
And it's like, you just wonder how people find these things. Like, there was like a speedrun glitch in Wind Waker that most people said was impossible, but someone finally hit the right spot, an invisible wall. If you swing, I forget which weapon it is, but if you, like, slide against the invisible wall, you'll launch yourself through it, and it shaves like 30 minutes off the run. And like, who figured these things out? Like,
back in the day, though, speedrunning wasn't a thing. It's a new thing with the internet, as far as, like, people just become like, okay, well, I can play this, and, like, I'm gonna do this. So, like, in Jak and Daxter, the original one, the biggest innovation in that community was figuring out how to get across the lava without using the speeder. So how you got to the second area. They spent, I think it was years to months developing this, and someone figured out how to do it, and that was the crack in the system. So I think it comes to the point of, like, they run the speed run so many times it gets capped out, and they're like, well, where's the next place we can save time? Like, what's our biggest time sink? The biggest time sink was getting through that section. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to keep messing with it. There has to be a route. There has to be something I can do mechanically to get around it.
Dude, they're playing a whole different game. Like, that's they create their own challenge.
Well, for me, it's like, is it even, like, how do you determine that as fun? Like, that's what I don't understand.
Well, my logic as a kid, just you bring it up the Jak and Daxter one with the lava and not being able to get across with the scooter, is like, my logic as a kid is like, it just won't work that way. That's just not how the game is. Like, you have to get it, but people have figured out how to bypass that, that is crazy. You have to take so much time. Like,
it's funny. There's a lesson in here in this speedrunning thing. Like Clayton was saying, they sit there and they micro-optimize. What's the biggest problem? How do we fix it? And they refine and refine and refine. So there's almost like a self-improvement lesson in the awesome games done quick niche. But the other one too is, like, y'all probably seen these on YouTube. They make the developers watch the speedruns, and the developers are like, how did he do that? The developers are like, like, they spent months, sometimes years crafting stuff. It's like, you just beat the game in like 5 minutes.
Dude, the weirdest one to me was like, it was like Final Fantasy VII speed run, and it was like 3.5 hours or something stupid. I was like,
dude,
how does that happen?
Dude, so that's the thing, is like, there's also some speedrunning games where the glitches that you find, like, they have built the game so well that there's not many glitches you could do to save time. So there are some where it's like, we can beat it. Like, there are some games where it's just, you can beat it in like 7 minutes. Those seem to be the ones that people aren't overly speed running. It's the ones that, like, are within 20 minutes to like an hour long speed run. Like, I forget. Like,
still the 7-minute ones, I don't get how people even figure that out.
Oh, dude, so what's funny?
Like, this is like a 40-hour long game. Like, I beat it in 7 minutes.
Oh, well,
and I didn't use a cheat code. Like, I just figured it out.
What's crazy too is the community sets rules to it. So, like, the New Vegas, like Fallout New Vegas speed runs, you cannot play on certain computers. You have to play it in a certain way, because if you have a higher end PC, your character runs faster because of the frame rate. So they have to cap your frame rate. Like there's things like that that's even crazier too. Is like the community finds rules and agrees on rules. That's also what gets me.
Dang.
And then like
It's kind of like the Pokemon challenge game, like the Poke challenges or whatever. Where you like play the Pokemon game, but you have like these rules you have to follow. It's like a version of that to me. It's just like it's like creating challenges with games that the games weren't even originally intended for. If I was a developer, that would make me happy. I'm like, wow, they're like using it as a tool right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're making other stuff with it.
See, I've done that with Fallout too. Like I've like it would come down to me texting someone like I've done like an armorless run. Like I've done a lot of stupid runs in Fallout because of how much I played it. It got to the point that like I would just ask a friend of like, okay, give me a character concept, set some pretty strict regulations on it. Like one of my favorite ones I did was like a chem addict. So every time I got any sort of chem, like Medex, Stim Pack, anything like that, I had to immediately take it. So if I picked it up, I had to take it immediately right then. So like I couldn't just stack up healing items. Like it was interesting, dude. There are some like super fun ones that you can build. And the other thing is too, it keeps you from having to min-max your build. So it makes you set restrictions on yourself to where it's actually a challenge still.
That's when you know, like you've just beat it too many times, or it's too easy for you. You put the self-imposing challenges. When I first met one of our other friends, him and his brother never beat one of the Tony Hawk games. And me and my uncle, not having internet growing up, you only get so many games, you know what I mean? And like we only got a game every few months. We could like literally how we would start our summer mornings. Wake up. I'd usually wake up first. He'd wake up. He'd eat breakfast. He'd be like, all right, go in his room. We'd warm up by beating one of the Tony Hawk games. And then we'd beat a different Tony Hawk game and then play other games for the rest of the day. Like our warm up was beating this game. Mm-hmm. That's the full story mode. Cause like we had it down so well, dude. So when I went and showed them, like, I'm like, dude, I can beat this game like today. And they were like, no. And I showed them, they were like, what? Like they, dude, it tricked them out.
Yes,
and I'm like, yeah. We did challenges like that because that's what you do. Like when you have these self-imposed challenges, like not to go too far down the skating rabbit hole. Rodney Mullen interview in a magazine. He learned his freestyle. He learned his freestyle set blindfolded to make sure he had it down. I'm like,
oh my
dude,
God.
it's hard. It's hard enough. Golly. But yeah, self-imposed challenges, man.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing though to challenge yourself. Like that's what you should be doing. Like if you want to like Fallout is one of those games like I feel 100% competent with. Like if someone were to ask me to play that game, like I can play it. I know the ins and outs. I know where I need to go for certain quests. I know what I need to do at a certain level. Like I know when a quest is too out of reach. Like I know the game, like a lot of the ins and outs of it. But there are some people who know the game better than I do. Like there is just that point in which you need to challenge yourself. Like I don't know why I picked that to challenge myself, but you have to pick things to challenge yourself.
See, I mean, then there's games like
enough for you.
So what is your take on like? And I haven't played it, but the idea of like Breath of the Wild is you can beat it whenever, right? There's no speed run, but how Breath of the Wild is created, like the mechanics is like it's a giant tool or engine for you to use to like make other stuff and challenge yourself within it. It's like a different take on it. I don't know. I think it's crazy.
So that's kind of, well, that's the thing, but that's a lot of those sandbox games. That's like GTA or Skyrim or anything like that.
Well,
now, Breath of the
those
Wild,
you have a storyline you have
different...
to follow. In Breath of the Wild, you can go straight to the final boss, correct?
You can. It is a little more open. So that's kind of the speed run is like glitch, flip, and you land in the castle and fight them with like one sword or whatever. I don't know. But it also is like you kind of have to decide on the speed run too. So for that one, it is like how fast can you beat the boss? How fast can you do every temple? Mm-hmm. So like it's within those, you know what I mean? Because like there's Pokemon ones. It's like any percent beat the game. Yep. And there's other ones that are like get every ribbon. Other ones are like, how fast can you beat every gym? Because any
That's what you're
percent,
saying.
they don't specify you have to go to the gym. You can glitch through, get one broken Pokemon, end up at the mountain.
Well,
like,
see,
you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
My favorite one, dude, I got really into watching the Pokemon Go speedruns. Dude, those are super fun.
Pokemon Go.
Or not Pokemon Go. Pikachu and
Let's
Eevee.
Go.
Yeah, Let's Go. That one,
Oh,
dude.
Like,
I got
speed run that.
I got people like I got really into deep into watching those speed runs because it's like you're like, oh yeah, he's like, oh yeah, no, I'm any percenting this, and this is the world record, and he's like, well, technically, I mean, your whole run could be screwed just based on the starting stats, so you got to get this, this, and this to be optimal. So he'll sit there and save quit, and he's like, sometimes it is hours of me waiting to get that right roll to go. But what's crazy is when he takes those runs, like he did a like complete the Pokedex run with it. Yeah. It's only like an hour or two. It's like only like an hour more, like an hour or two more than like the legitimate speed run of beat the game and beat the Final Four, and it's insane.
Dude, there was, and sometimes like they get to the end just to lose on the RNG. Soul Silver speed runs. The end of that game is Mount Silver, you fight Red. I have seen a speed run. The guy gets there. He's like 45 minutes in, and he had the RNG that landed for Red. That who he was facing with, like the opponent's Pokemon. Not only did it like land at the right time, but it did nothing but critical hits all in a row, which are like it's like one in a multiple million chance of happening. It's just like I'd be so mad putting 45 minutes in and having to start because you don't save. You just erase the file and start over. Like, dude, oh my god.
I don't know. I guess though, if you're that deep into it, you don't care. Like, you enjoy doing it. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
It only took you 45 minutes to get there, anyways.
Yeah, like that's my thought process. Is like that's probably their thought logic on it. Like even
like doing a run on Dark Souls or something.
Yeah, like you're just okay with losing sometimes. Because that's what makes it fun, is like if you don't lose sometimes it doesn't feel skillful. Like it becomes too easy. Like sometimes you need to fail.
Yeah, you want the unknown in there, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because, I mean, it's like anything you're dedicated to. You're like, man, like, how can this guy try that same trick over and over? Well, because he wants it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you know, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anything that you do, you have to be willing to fail and like be okay with failing. That's how you get good at things. But once you get too good at something, it's not fun anymore.
Which is the weird thing of like, you want to get good, but part of you doesn't want to get good because you want to get good. Because like, I want to be able to feel masterful at what I'm doing. But like you said, you're like, if I was a master at every time, it'd be boring. I'd put it down because it's like, well, I know that I'm gonna just nail this every time. Mm-hmm. So it is like a constant dance of like, I don't want to be too good. Well, I want to be better than I was.
Well, like that's my thing with like skating, right? Like we always talk about skating amongst ourselves and stuff like that. Like at the end of the day, like that is the beauty of that sport, is that it's like no. It's never done. Like there is always someone else innovating. There is always a bigger set to try. So there's always that level that people are like, there's no way you can do that. Like it can't be done. But there's always that person that's like, no, it can be done. I've just got to figure it out.
Yeah, most sports you can do that. There's always a new record to set, but skating specifically, and also I guess you could lump in like ice, like figure skating and stuff like that, and BMX, but it almost has like an art form to it, because like Rodney Mullen said, it's like a freedom of expression. Like these people are doing tricks that, I don't know, I guess they just think feels cool or whatever, but it's like Clayton said, it's innovation, but at the same time, it's just their creative mind at work. You can only get so creative with baseball or, you know, basketball or something, but you can still break records, like number records. But yeah, it's almost like an art form, dude. It's never going to end. Just like someone who makes music or paints, that's never ending. You go through like
it
phases.
Does take the other thing I was thinking about, like I was watching a video the other day that was like, people work hours for 2 seconds. Because if you spend hours on a trick, it takes actually in real time, it takes a second to 2 seconds to actually perform a trick.
Mhm.
It's a pop foot catch.
Dang, that makes me feel terrible.
But that's the thing, like
Yeah.
in the video was a guy, he was trying to laser flip a triple set. So something a lot cooler than a flat ground trick, but just slamming over and over and over and going back multiple times, finally gets it. And I was like, yeah, if you watch that in real time, from how fast he's going, triple set, pop foot catch, 1.5 seconds. But it was like, but now it's like, all right, that's done, that's over. And I thought that to another degree of Olympic athletes, dude. Like, they give their lives to have a shot at a race, and if you don't get gold, you're a nobody. And you're already world class, but you're in a different class, so no, you're a nobody.
Well, it's not even that either, because it's like you could even then get a gold medal and still nobody knows who you are, and that could be the only Olympics you ever compete in. There are people who train their whole lives to get into the Olympics, get in there, get gold. Well, guess what? They're still not good enough to make it next year. So, like, they still can't make a name for themselves.
I cannot even imagine the amount of stress when you're, like, in one of those, like, activities or sports that, like, there's, like, a one-time shot, like the shot put or whatever, like, when they throw it, or, like, the pole vault. Like, it's not running, like, oh, you maybe started out bad or you had a trip, but you can make up for it. Like, you got 1 second. This is one shot, and that's, like, that's it. That is a lot of pressure.
That's why, hey, side note, that's why Lose Yourself is like the most relatable song of all time. But yeah, it's like, dude, literally everyone understands it. That's why it's so relatable, no matter what you're doing. But even to the Olympic athletes, like, so like you get gold, you can still be a nobody, because how many Olympic athletes do you that make it celebrity status? Michael Phelps.
Because, like,
I can't think of any other
controversy. Yeah,
there's Michael Phelps, and then I knew like 1 or 2 of the gymnast names, and then I knew the female soccer, like one of the heads
I knew
of the female soccer.
What was that snowboarder? There was a snowboarder.
Sean White.
That dude.
Yeah. But he was he also got famous in the X Games as well. Like there was other elements
for transitioning over. Yeah.
Like,
he snowboards and he can skateboard.
You can like create with that. Like, that's not you're not limited. Like, I mean, dude, those slopes, you're moving so quick. I'm sure people can just make up what they're doing.
I feel like it's more limited. Like, if you were to argue which is less limited, like skateboarding is way less limited because you don't have the restriction of your feet have to stay on the board.
Between the two,
and snow.
Mm-hmm.
But just as a sport, like, I don't feel like it's that. I mean, I guess, yeah, you do have to stay in that environment. But when it comes to performing your tricks, I feel like they can do a lot with that.
I mean, they can. But
they can. I mean, they can, for its course, yeah.
Well, it's like the argument of, like, where is the, like, I feel like it's more directions to innovate, whereas, like, in snowboarding, it's a lot more constricted in innovation.
You're doing your vert or going downhill.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do grinds and stuff like that too. Like, that's there, but it's like you really only have like, okay, I can spin. It's about it. I can maybe do a front flip. I can do a back flip. Like, you can only build upon those, but you can't build off in any other side directions.
You know what else is pretty intense? I guess it's an offshoot of that, is like wakeboarding. Like, have you ever seen videos of people that do like, I don't know if it's professional or not, but they have like
they do
obstacle
like
courses on their lakes. Those are pretty intense, dude. You got to think they're holding on to something that's pulling them while they're doing these tricks. Like, that's they're not moving, they're not free flowing. Like, they're having to balance with a boat while they're doing this crap. Like, that's insane.
Well, I mean, the best way I could put it is imagine you getting towed behind a car and trying to use your skateboard.
You would fall, dude. You'd eat it. Like,
right? Like, but that's the level of confidence they have, right? Like, they are that confident that they will get the trick every time. But if they do, it's a hard bail, but it's not horrible.
Dude, so speaking of snowboarding, the snowstorm we had here like a couple of months ago or whatever, one of our buddies from a long time ago, I saw on his Snapchat, was getting pulled down the street, snowboarding across the ice, and he hit a little gap and did like a 180 and landed. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Could not be me.
Texas.
Could not be me.
Dude. And some of those Olympic athletes, man, they have like serious depression because you don't get paid to do that. You don't get paid to train. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
like
you only get paid to
to
medal. You only get paid on a medal, and if I recall correctly, the pay on the medal is not that great either. I think it's like maybe 10 to 20 grand for a gold.
Yeah, like I was watching a documentary on it, and she's basically having to make $3,000 last a year, which is impossible. You know what I mean? It's like I make nothing, and then
so as Olympics can go all the way through adulthood, right? It's not like straight out of school. Like you just have to be committed to it, or is it like you're in like high school or college and you go through and that's like
you have to be? There are some where it's committed from a very young age, and there's some where it's not. Like figure skaters it's going to be committed from a very young age. Like swimmers going to be committed from a very young age. Shot put probably. The only one that I think really wouldn't be is like curling. I bet that's something you can pick up later on in life and get really, really good at.
Well, I was wondering if it's like the same argument of like that's why they don't get paid. The same thing as like why college athletes don't get paid. It's like, oh, well, they're part of an institution or they're part of something. I don't know, but I didn't know if that was the same. If Olympic people were all still considered students or whatever.
I think it comes down to draw, right? Like nobody's like, you watch the Olympics. When was the last time that you set time aside to sit there and just watch like the track races in between that? Because they do track pretty much all year round. It's not just the Olympics. But you don't sit there and watch that, even though like the same people are pretty much competing in those that compete in the Olympics. Like, I think it comes down to draw. Like, eyes are only on them when it's the Olympics, so that's the only one that pays. True. So it's not there for everything else.
When you say the Olympics, you're like, dude, all right, world stage. This is world class athletes. Like when I hear Olympus, I'm like, all right, everyone's meeting on Mount Olympus, dude. Like that's what you're trying. You're getting the torch at the top.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but that's the thing is like. They don't really care about the athletes. Like there's no, so after it, they all get post-Olympic blues because they're like, now I have nothing. Like everything I trained for my entire life is gone in a few seconds. And I have to wait 3 years to qualify and then the 4th year to compete. And you got to think every 4 years, you're going to get old. You have maybe 3 or 4 Olympics in you. 4 is pushing it. That's 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
30s.
Yeah. So that's the thing too, is that they suffer from is like a lot of like, there's like, depression, suicide, there's a lot of that. And then they're just like, I'm in my late 20s or I'm in my mid 30s. I don't have an actual job. It's like, what do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And how do you go from not only that, who can relate? There's only so many Olympic athletes. So, like, you don't have someone to, like, bounce your ideas off of either of, like, this is what I feel like. And you're just like, yeah, I mean, I can kind of relate, but not at all.
Well, it's going pro in a I guess, respected sport, I guess is the best way to put it, or, like, entertaining sport. Like,
I would say entertaining. I would think Olympics are highly respected, like,
because,
worldwide.
like, like, the Olympic curling team, like, dude.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
like, dude, what's their
niche? It's just not our flavor.
Like, but I feel like that's not a lot of people's flavor. Whereas, like, you got tennis. Tennis seems to be kind of worldwide. You got soccer, that's worldwide. You've got basketball, which is decently worldwide. Swimming, not huge, but, I mean, decent enough. Like, probably in the middle. But then you have, like, track and field, shot put. Like, you have all these.
I was going to say, I like watching the gymnasts, like the people that do, like, basically the link flips from the first Super Smash Brothers, the 360 flips and crap, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff is impressive to me. I think that's crazy.
But nobody's watching that, right? Like you're
Not
not
year round, no. You're
there's
like,
not
my
that
mindset
like
is I just want to watch the best of the best.
there's
you
not
know?
that mindset of like the advertising around it to get you hyped up about it. And I wonder if it also comes down to like barrier of entry to do these things. Like soccer is super popular because the barrier to entry for anyone to play it is very, very low. Whereas like swimming, barrier to entry is pretty difficult. Like not every kid has access to a pool. Not every country has access to a pool. So harder to relate. Like I almost wonder if it comes down to barrier of entry. Like curling, not every place gets ice, and some places that do. Well, okay, well now we still got to find the gear. It's not an everyday thing, and that gear is not cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Some of them are very
yeah.
specific, very niche.
Mm-hmm.
It comes back to the entertainment thing of like, you know what I mean? Like with the gymnast thing, like it looks cool. There's another layer of like people who actually do it and understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just the
added
dumbass
skating-
in the bleachers. It's like, oh, that dude just did like 6 flips in a row. That's impressive. But down there's people just like in skating. They're like, oh, that was sloppy right there. I saw his foot roll. You know, like he dragged right there. Like,
Well,
yeah, and they added skating to the Olympics. So I mean that'll
Which
be
is cool.
interesting.
so my problem with like skating in the Olympics, dude, it's gonna be the same teams. Like it's gonna be the same people we already know about, right? Like that's my only problem when it comes to sports like that. Like while that scene is growing, I mean, we already have like street league. It's like dude, I do not watch Olympic level basketball, but I can tell you every year who won. USA, like we've built a whole culture around that. We throw millions at our athletes. Like ours is considered the premier league. Like even though there's basketball in like Eastern Europe and stuff like that.
That's the thing though, with the Olympic skateboarding, there's probably only a few names you'll recognize because now it's regulated by country. So some of the pros that we're used to in the barracks and street league, they can't play on the same team. You know what I mean? They represent, like you're going to have
the U.S.
Well, that's just it. That's what I'm saying.
Brazilians, you're going to have the Russians. Like but you don't know what they can do. You might have the Russians might take it. Well, see, I've never heard of those guys.
That's my thing, though. It's like in Russia, like when I'm saying like Russia and stuff like that. Like I get your argument of like, yeah, that's the best outcome that happens. But realistically, like, dude, is Russia actually like most like take Australia for instance? Like, there's a skate scene there, but what do most Australians try to do? They try to get into America because the scene's more developed.
Well, it's not about we're not talking about the scene though. He's saying like, even though a lot of pro skaters originate from America or come to America to skate, like we can't have like 20 skaters from America
no.
out there competing against each other.
I get that, but what I'm saying is like the same thing with like basketball. There's a reason why the U.S. wins like every Olympic basketball game. It's because we have money into those things. People follow the money. That's why, like, dude, Australian skaters, like, there's a scene there, but there's more money in America, so their best ones are gonna come to America. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, most of the names that we're gonna recognize are gonna be pros that we know. They're just nation of origin is just who they're gonna be skating for. Like, I don't think we're gonna have some underground skater from like Russia that comes out of nowhere, or an underground skater from like China that comes out of nowhere.
Japan, I would say Japan more likely, but dude, you don't know. You really don't know because there's a lot of people. I mean, some people are just poor kids that don't have access to internet or anything. What if that's all they have time to do?
I was gonna say is like that's actually happening like right now. It's always happening. There's a guy named Arulian right now. He's insanely pro. Like I don't think he's a pro yet, but he's pro level, and he was just in the Dew Tour the other day. I mean, the tricks he's throwing down in a competition are just like you would expect days of practice to do it once. And he's throwing it like, you know, he's like doing tray flip gaps to 50-50s down ledges and like doing like 16 stair sets. And I've never heard of this guy. He's just now blowing up. And there's like, again, like there's some Asian people
and
never heard of him.
Like,
Well, like my
know,
argument is, are all these people are going to be from like America to a degree. Like most of their skating is going to be in America. Because I'm saying, like, over there, it's not like, dude, I don't think there's skate parks in Russia. I don't know off the top of my head, but if there are, I would almost bet that it's not extremely common. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
It's like all these people flood to here.
for the
dude,
sport,
there's a huge skate.
yeah.
Yeah, there's maybe for like the barracks for exposure, but there's a huge skate scene in Spain. They like specifically a lot of skate videos are shot in Barcelona, but just all over Spain. Like they interviewed some Spanish skaters, and in broken English, he was saying, he's like, I think the architects here are worse skaters because everything is ideal to skate here, and there's a huge skate scene. So like a lot of spots, like, I don't know, you just like watching a skate video, it's a skate video, but the more you watch them, you're like, that's in Spain, that's in Australia, that's in Japan. The more you watch it, so
yeah,
there's scenes everywhere. Like
my argument,
yeah, and you never know who's gonna win, dude.
My thing is like the same argument though that comes out of like American basketball, right? Like I'm not saying that they don't have those things. I'm saying that I feel like America's going to be more dominant because there's more money in our scene.
It could be, yeah.
Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. Because like with basketball, like there's an
like
Eastern
soccer?
European league. There's a no, because like I said, barrier to entry, right? Like it also comes down to money. Like soccer's not popular in America. There's a reason why America's never number one in soccer. Like we're always decent.
That's my point. Yeah,
but
that's my point. It's like other countries. Yeah.
Yeah, skating, I feel like to me, the best example I can bring up is like basketball. Like, we are not the only country that has basketball. There's an Eastern European league. There's a Chinese league. Like, there's so many different leagues of it. But because all the money is in America, that is where the best go. Like, that would almost be my argument for skating, is that because there's so much money here, most of those people who are really big over there are coming over here to do their deals and everything like that, so they're skating in America more.
Do you think like soccer players would do the same? Like I don't know the biggest country in soccer, but like I don't know, Spain or Brazil or something, but there's also Germany, Switzerland. I mean, all those places have soccer. We have soccer. But would they flock to that specific
argument would be it depends on where the league is at. So like when it comes to like soccer leagues, like there is a European soccer league. It's not just one country. You get what I'm saying? So like that one's more competitive on that level because the scene, they're already playing all each other. Whereas like America, when it comes to like America being good at basketball, it's like we are pretty much the only ones who like. When we do basketball, we're the only ones that are big. It's not like, oh, well, we're going to do all of, North America and South America, where we have a wide diversity of countries involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
There should be more world championships like that. But yeah, like it depends where the scene's at. Because a couple years ago, there's a documentary on Netflix about bull riding. All the top pros are Brazilian.
Yep.
Like, they're just all of them. I was like, what? But yeah, they're just like, they have a knack for it, and like they're just like it's just what they're interested in.
What's funny is that doesn't surprise me at all, because like they were I'm pretty sure they're the ones who kept that like farming, like that rodeo culture, like that's big to them. Like for us here in the South, it's like, oh yeah, I mean the South, like that's our thing. Like we only think of as America to do that, but like, nah, there's a major scene back there. Like they're doing it in their country. Like I would almost argue that it's like you're probably not gonna see many pro bull riders in Russia. Like that's just not what their culture is around. Like that's not a common thing there.
That just makes sense.
But like skateboarding
from Europe.
I'm saying if skateboarding happens, I'm gonna go ahead and say the Australians probably win.
I don't know
after all that.
Honestly,
Even with the debate, I'm gonna say Team America because the top players already know how to work competitions. Like Nigel's gonna be in it for sure. He's like probably one of the most decorated, if not the most decorated skater ever. He knows how to work competition.
Well, so that's my
I think Chris Jocelyn made in.
That would be my argument for like Shane O'Neill, right? Like that would be my argument because Shane and Nigel would always battle it out.
But I don't think Shane's in. That's the other thing too. Who still wants to compete? Like Chris Cole said, he's not in competition mode. Shane's working on his business. That's the other thing. Nigel's like competition is his thing, and I don't know who'll win either. It might be like half the team never heard of them. They just are competition skaters.
Yeah,
because that used to be a thing when it was just X Games before Street League. They did competition skaters. That's all they did. It's weird to think about, but you know.
I assume that's with any sport, right? There's always like the underground scene. Like, I mean, even if we take it out of sports, like hip hop and rap and music and all that, there's always like an underground scene of like, nah, this dude is a killer in the underground, or like this guy's a killer at battle rap. Like that's what he does.
But the casual people know about him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there is, and yeah.
So, I mean, what do we want to talk about next, man? I feel like we've kind of exhausted that rabbit hole to a degree.
So, Wagner, what do you think about the legislation in Texas being on the table about open carry, but you don't need a CDL if it gets passed? So you can just have one.
I would want to.
I believe if I understand it right.
I would honestly. I don't think it really benefits anyone. So, like, my major thing with, like, guns and stuff like that, I have no problem. I think everyone should have a right to carry it. I don't think we should overly regulate it either. I just feel like you should make sure that person is 100% proficient and safe with that firearm and, like, mentally stable. Like, that's my conditions for it. I don't like them getting rid of, like, oh, you don't have to take this course anymore. I don't like that. You know how many people think they're safe with guns and are incredibly dangerous with them?
Well, I just remember taking a gun safety course with my grandfather as a kid, and there being this guy in there, this like guy in like his 40s, like the skinnier guy, and he was so pumped. Like he was so pumped to go shoot. And like you could bring your own gun or they would provide you one. And he had this giant 357 Magnum, like those fat revolvers. And he was just like his arms are just going back when he'd shoot it. And my grandpa just looked over and he was telling everyone he's getting ready to get a CDL. He's getting ready to get a CDL. My grandpa looked over. He's like, "That's someone who doesn't need a CDL." Like,
yeah, no, there's
but the point is if he did get it, at least he passed some sort of regulated test, just like a driver's license.
Yeah, that's.
I don't, what's the difference?
That's kind of how I look at it. Like, I think of it as like a right, but a right that can be taken from you. Like, just like you said with like driving and stuff like that. Like, it's something everyone should be allowed to do, but you should you should prove that you are competent enough to do it to a degree. Like, me personally, like, I mean, if you get into the gun scene, which is dangerous just because of how opinionated it is, like, you think there's like strong opinions in your scene, like guns, it's a whole nother level, man.
Oh yeah. Well, so that's, I don't know. It just, when I see people with guns on their hip now, I always think to myself, at least that, that dude, that person, man or woman, they have a license, like at least I know they've been through some sort of training. But now, or if it gets passed or whatever, like anyone could just like grab one like that's not theirs, their spouses or whoever's, their brothers or sisters, and just be like, I'm gonna wear this on my hip today and walk around with it. Like
that's the problem, is because people need that class to realize like life is not a movie. You need to respect the weapon. Like, yeah, you need to go through that to be humbled. Just like, being a mutual combat law or having some type of bar of entry, like, dude, like that video I sent y'all, you don't Dunning-Kruger effect. You walk up and challenge somebody to a fight. Not a smart idea. That's why gyms
that was
are
a
great.
Crazy video, dude. That was hilarious. I love that video.
That's why gyms are great for young adults, kids, because it humbles you of like, okay, I understand what an actual fight is. And most of those people don't get in street fights. They don't.
Well, I mean,
they just avoid.
I mean, we've all shot guns. I know we've all done it. There's a level to understanding how much power you have with it that like just you automatically, once you've fired it, you've kind of been taught the safety behind it. Because like when you're arrogant and you're like, oh, I know everything about this, that's when you have a problem and you're going to get someone hurt. Of like, I know this so well, I can do this. Like, I know what's safe. I know better. It's like, no, you always have to treat firearms, because of the level of power behind it, as if you know nothing about that, and that any failsafe on it can fail at any time.
So tell me if this is a far-fetched idea or not, but like to prevent people from being in that mindset, because I knew someone in high school that would just like, first time they had a gun, they just like shot it twice at the ground, just like pop, pop, like just didn't even think about it. All right, I'm like, whoa, like when I was taught, like, you always point it away from people, make sure that safety's on, you keep it down, if you have to hold all these certain ways, like, would it be a bad thing, since it's our Second Amendment, to maybe have some sort of firearm education with children at some point in school? Or do you think that would be pushing ideas way too much?
My thing
because
like
people should recognize how much power they have and that they can take a life.
My argument would be is that kids are not in a mental state to learn that information. Like, not every kid is in the right mental state to where they should learn that.
True.
Like, it's like, hey, this is a highly pressurized situation for some people, just being in school in general. Now we're going to add an even more serious pressure onto you of learning how to use this. Like, you'll be worried that they'd snap. Me personally, like, if it was like, you were 18, you were out of school now, hey, in a year, you've got to show up for this mandatory class, we're going to teach you about firearms. I wouldn't have a problem with that. That would be fine, because that gives them a year, the stress is alleviated from school. And I would make it one of those things where it's like, it's not a huge deal if you fail. It's more, we're going to educate you on how this works. You can choose whether or not you want to carry or own one after that.
Here's a better idea. 16, so they're still in school. Because if you give some people a gap year from 18 to 19, all of a sudden they can't make it. 16, you line up field day style, put on a bulletproof vest, you get shot in the chest. So you know what it means to take a bullet, to take an impact. I'm not doing that to somebody.
I don't know about that, but like, I just more so like, I feel, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of people being like, oh, it's media and video games and stuff, but I feel like I don't think it's that, because older generations are almost the same, but the way gun violence specifically in America, and not just like school, but like any, like even just people on people, adults on adults, like there's no remorse for life, or people are like, they don't really process, like, you took away a whole life that is connected to so many other people. Like, you just made a very powerful impact, and a lot of people, I feel like it doesn't even click with them. They're just like, all right, I can move
a lot
on.
of
That was
stuff,
an obstacle.
It's because it doesn't affect you. Like, that's like my whole argument to that is because, like, I've been in a car wreck in which someone died. It's weird how you feel nothing. Like, something just drastically changed for someone else.
You weren't.
It is
you didn't cause that.
It is to
you didn't
a
walk
degree.
up to the big difference and pull the trigger.
So here's my argument to that on why it's like, it's a disconnect in the brain, but it's not that hugely different. Is that just doesn't connect for them. They think of that in that same manner. Because it's like, same thing. They pull that trigger. Like, if it's someone they don't know and they pull the trigger, once again, if they don't get caught, their life doesn't change at all. Like, they weren't affected by that happening. Like, it is almost a numb thing where it's like, I really thought I was going to feel more. Well, I guess because I don't feel it, I guess it doesn't really matter. So I guess it's okay to do that. Like, I feel like it's just a switch there that doesn't click properly. Like, the only way to make that make sense is to put consequences to it. And even then, people still kill people even with those consequences. But I feel like that's why most people feel remorse and guilt when it happens, is they realize they broke the law. I don't feel it comes down to like, oh my God, I took someone's life. Like, I don't think most people...
That's my point, is people are just afraid of the law. People actually don't... I'm not saying everyone's bad or anything. I mean, I believe most people are generally good, but like, when it comes to that situation specifically, people
Well, I think it's
they are more
You're
scared of
asking-
like, oh, I'm gonna go to jail,
So
I'm gonna
my-
lose my job,
my
I'm gonna
ar-
lose my car. Not like I just killed someone.
So you're
like they're not
you're
concerned.
pretending like that's a bad thing. So like I think that comes down to like evolutionary standards to a degree, right? Like if you felt something every time you killed anyone back in the day, tribes would not have survived. Like there's a reason why it would have been bred out of us, because if you're too empathetic, you won't survive.
Never
The
even
thing
thought
is,
of that.
you're asking people who don't get shit to get shit.
Mhm.
You're asking a killer to be like, but think about the life. It doesn't cross their mind. You're asking an alcoholic, but what about your health? They're like, it's not on my fucking mind.
Well-
You know what I mean? It's not on their mind. So like,
yeah.
My other point
Not
to
even-
that too, like he's saying, is like at the end of the day, like you're like, well, think about the life you took. They already did. Their
decided
assessment of it was just not the same answer as you, and you don't like
There
that
was-
answer.
Yeah, they saw no value. They needed to move past an obstacle. Like
Yep.
that's
and had they
know.
calculated, had there been different stuff in their equation, had there been the ripple effect and who it might harm been in their equation, it would change the answer, but it's not in their equation.
I just
Yeah,
don't get how
I mean-
like things get taken to that levels. I feel like very quickly, specifically in America, like just altercations amongst strangers or stuff. Or like when we're driving, and if she's like frustrated, she'll like give someone the finger or like honk at him. I'm like, chill out. It's not worth it. Like not worth it at all.
But
Like, I've had someone pull up on me in a gas station, like pull up, get out of his car. Not worth it. Our buddy had a gun waved at him out the window. It's just, I'm like, let's just move on. Like people take this stuff way too serious. A horn is to let someone know there's a safety issue, but people will take it as like, oh, that's an insult. It's, something's about to go down.
Well, I mean,
It's just crazy.
to a degree, but that like the same thing is like you're trying to comprehend how someone else's brain thinks, which is not possible. Like
Yeah, with
it's,
their-
you're
you're
limited, you
challenging
can't do it.
The problem is you're challenging their fragile ego. That horn or whatever is all they have. That ego that you're attacking is all they have. Well, you might think it's one thing. They're like, this is where I can get power. I can pull up on
Yeah.
this guy and fight him, or I can pull up on this guy and shoot him. That will make my fragile ego bigger. So
Well,
yeah, you're dealing with fragile
it
ego.
also
It-
comes
it
down
makes-
to humility though as well. Like it comes down to the fact of like, yes, honking is to let them know there's a safety issue. Well, to them they did the
All it is.
assessment right. It was safe. You're wrong. Like it's a thing about humility. Some people just aren't like
I
are
get to me when
humble.
someone honks, it's just like, okay, I need to check everything because either I'm about to get hit or I'm about to hit someone. It's not like, oh, I'm about to put it in park and some ass kicking's about to go down. Like,
yeah, but
what?
you're thinking of it in a different manner. You're acknowledging that you could be wrong in the situation. There are some people that do not acknowledge that they could have any wrongdoing. Like that's another thing, is they will not accept that they
That's
could have
their
been in the
ego.
wrong. Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, your
it's
ego's
just-
like
it's
your
crazy.
ego's not big. You're just like,
It-
okay. I mean,
Well, it makes me think
Whatever.
of the time, like, and I know we've already talked about this before, but it's because I was just listening to it. But when you were talking about when you and our buddy went to the gas station and the guy that had the bike
oh
chain,
my god,
dude,
Yeah.
like, what is that? Because I just heard that and I was like, let's think about it again. I'm like, he was just looking for an issue. Like, I wonder if he even purchased what he was holding. Like, he probably just wanted an altercation.
yeah, dude.
I don't know.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, that's the whole problem of like, I don't think it's like, and who's to say it's necessarily, I mean, is it true it's America? Is that true? It's like we have the most
What?
gun violence? I would believe it if it was
Oh,
true.
So
But I mean,
I'm not actually
painted
sure.
that way.
I think maybe we have the most. I would have to ask Wagner. He's about to come back, but I think we have the most citizen on citizen gun violence. Because I mean, other countries are like have civil wars and stuff. So, Wagner, is it true that
So then
America
it's
has the
not
most
that
most
bad.
gun violence, like citizen on
Is it
citizen?
true?
'Cause I know there's wars in other nations. Like, do we have the most citizen on citizen gun violence? Like, I've heard Chicago has been called Iraq #2 or something like that. Or it's one of like, there's so many deaths and gun violence. Like, it's been
So-
compared to the deaths we've had
My argument would be is you'd have to look at how accurate those numbers are taken, right? Because like it's probably more like think about like all the conflict that happens in like Africa and like the Middle East and stuff like that. How much of that goes undocumented and unreported? As far as like,
Yeah.
I don't think you can use like I hate it when people try to use arguments like that because it's like we're trying to make it seem like it's way worse than it may actually be. It could just come down to the simple fact of like, hey, this is an issue. Like, what's the problem with us wanting to get this number lower in general? Like, I
Yeah,
look
well,
at
that's
it
what I'm
that
saying.
as like, why
Citizen on
can't?
citizen violence, not like like a war criminal or some sort of conflict happening in a nation. Like we are a nation at peace in our homeland. There's no
I
violence, but there's violence amongst ourselves.
It depends on what you mean. Like, if you mean like deadly violence, I'd probably say America has the most deadly violence just because we have better things to kill each other with. But like, it getting rid of the gun doesn't get rid of the problem. Like, there's still violence
No,
in Britain and stuff like that. Like, people had acid thrown on them during robberies and stuff like that because that was the next readily available thing. So it's like, how far do we reduce it? Like, you can reduce it and it will reduce the number, but it's also like how good is it and efficient is your tool to like implement that.
Yeah, and I personally don't believe we should. My view have changed on that a little bit too. I don't think we should have some massive gun control thing. I just don't think idiots should be able to walk around with guns on their waist and play cowboy because their grandpa let them borrow it or something. There has to be some sort. If you have to have a driver's license, hunter's license, fishing license, and every other license, you should have to have a license to hold a handgun in public around other people. Children could be, but
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but we also live in one of the states where our gun regulations are kind of the lowest out of the country. Like, we have the least amount.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
I don't hate it. Like, I mean, and that's.
I don't hate it either.
It's typically the argument for gun control is like, well, I mean, y'all tried to control it in Chicago. Look at how much more violence y'all have there than we do in Texas. Like, yes, we have violence, but it's still less.
It's like 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I mean, it just depends on.
So there's there's a lot of more layers to that. Like, there's a lot different level of gang violence, socioeconomic problems, all that stuff.
True. But drug war and everything else.
Right. Speaking of people like popping off, like, this lady knocked 2 teeth out of a flight attendant. She was like already being unruly. She was already being unruly on the flight, and then when they landed, she swung on one of the flight attendants and knocked 2 of her teeth out.
But my thing is, like, what happened? Like, this wasn't just a one-sided thing, right?
Yeah, what's the story?
There's no way it just like went from 0 to like I'm being unruly, and then someone just asked like, "Hey, can you please calm yourself down?" Like, how far did it escalate? Because I know it didn't just go from like, "Ma'am, could you please be a little bit more quiet?" to, "All right, as soon as this flight lands, I'm knocking her teeth out." Like, this had to be like an hour ordeal of bickering.
I don't know, dude. I mean, that's people though. If you're willing to punch a flight attendant in the mouth, you probably are that type of person that takes it 0 to 100 for no reason.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
their story is that's how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
A flight attendant's not looking for a fight. Yeah, that person was looking for a fight.
You say that, but like, there's probably also like, you can't act like this. You've got to stop. Like, there was that like, come on, okay, you're gonna get put on the no-flight list. Like, you don't understand the consequences to your actions. Like, I know it.
Job.
I don't disagree, but we both know it wasn't it was 0 to 100, but it wasn't just like, okay, this person's pissed off, I'm just going to kind of remove myself. Like, this was like, they had to have been bickering back and forth for a little while. Like, this wasn't, there's no way it was just like, just like anyone who gets upset. Okay, I'm going to pull myself out of the situation. They'll tire themselves out. Just like a kid throwing a temper tantrum. Like, sometimes you just got to let them tire themselves out. Like, remove yourself from the situation. Don't endorse one way or the other. Let them just tire themselves out.
So here's the smart move though. She waited till they landed to knock her teeth out.
Mm.
So if you're on a flight, you're not swinging mid-flight.
That was premeditated.
You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
then it's awkward the whole ride. You know what I mean? Like, I'll turn this plane around. It's like, all right, as soon as we land, I'm swinging.
Well,
you don't want that awkward tension in the air.
I'm sure though, anytime there's like a problem on the flight like that, they typically already have cops and like authorities made aware for when they land. Like anytime
So again,
any of
she's
that
like,
happens, they prepared. It's like it happens.
Yeah,
they're
she's
like,
like,
that's
all
the best time to do it. It's like, honestly, it's not. Like you land, the authorities have probably already been made aware that there's an unruly like situation here that could happen.
Okay,
yeah, dude.
It's still the best time. It's not like if you punch them at the beginning of the flight, like, all right, we're over it now. By the end, it's like, all right, the cops are gonna talk to me. I could get arrested. Let me just make it worth it.
I see your point because she has more of a chance to get away if she does everything land. But Clayton's right because
she can make a bolt.
They're showing. Yeah, I mean, because if something happens beforehand, I'm almost positive police are already on the scene when the plane lands.
Yep.
Because in that show Border Patrol on Netflix, there was like a guy that had somehow coming over from like Canada or something, and like the people were like already waiting for him, like in the terminal. As soon as he walked off, there was like 3 cops there.
Whose jurisdiction are you in? So maybe whose jurisdiction are you in? Do you punch her at the beginning of the flight? So then the different state and county.
My thing is
it's probably already solved.
I would think it'd be like federal jurisdiction because you're over the country.
Oh, I think you're right. So they also said this has been the worst year for unruly passengers.
Yeah, it's probably marshals. I would assume that handle it.
It's just federal.
They said this has been the worst year because like they have unruly customers not wanting to wear masks because it's a federal mandate. So I think you're right. In the skies, the government owns your body once more until you land.
Federal.
I mean, even then, like, dude, it's such a dumb situation. Because, like, here's my next question: was this her coming back home? Because if not, she's not flying back. That immediately gets you on a no-flight list. Like, so now you're driving back because you can't fly.
No, the Uber ain't cheap, and I hope you don't punch the Uber driver when you stop because he knows where you live now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of interview her. Be like, what was your thought process like, and why the flight attendant of all people? Like, they're typically
I can guarantee
scrawny little girls.
It's gonna be super short-sighted.
Is that why?
It's not going to be thinking long-term. It's always like...
She was asking for it.
Yeah, she said this, and this to me. She disrespected me. It's never like, well, I did it, and I just accepted, like, I'm not going to be able to fly anymore. I made that calculation, and I was okay with it. It's always something. It's something short-term.
She told me to quit masturbating with the seatbelt. There's kids around, and I had enough of it. I swung on her. Dude, but like, why the flight attendant? Is it because they're so like typically flight attendants like little girls? You know what I mean? Even if they're older, they're pretty like thin. Is it because like I know it's like a bully? It's like a bully's mindset. I know this person doesn't have a chance.
I don't think it's.
You know what I mean? Because if you had to punch someone,
I don't think it's that. My thing is that had to have been the one that was engaging with them, because like. They're the sense of authority to a degree. Like, they're the ones that are having to handle the situation of an unruly customer. They're the ones having to facilitate it. It's not like the captain's dealing with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that is the point of contact. So that's who they're going for. It's like the same thing with any industry. Like, if our company makes someone mad, who do they go to? They go to us, even though it's not us, but we're the point of contact. So we seem like the authority on it.
But I don't think anybody's punching us, man. Because there's a lot of guys.
It's happened before.
You know what I mean?
I was going to say that.
It has happened before. I know people who have literally been like, yeah, I watched it happen in my store.
I know they've been threatened for a fight.
No, I forget who I talked to about it, but they're like, yeah, no, the guy literally grabbed his T-shirt and started swinging at him, and the guy just leaned back over the counter while he was swinging. Like, yeah,
Dang.
it happens. Like, it's still rare. Just like someone getting punched on a flight is rare. It happens though. Like,
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you had to punch someone, like, who are you picking? You know what I mean? Like, you got to play it smart because, like, if you punch somebody in McDonald's, it's gang warfare. You got like 18 employees running out the back at you, or Chick-fil-A, really. Like, who are you punching?
Mhm.
Flight attendant? It's probably a federal crime. You know what I mean? Like, hitting the mailman's
Dude,
a felony.
I was
So
wondering,
who are you punching?
what happens if you're born on a plane in international waters?
They drop
What
you.
are
They
you?
just throw you out the window.
Like, do you belong to a nation, or are you just considered an international citizen?
you're not.
What
an,
are you?
You're not an
You
international
probably just-
citizen. I think they would eventually come down on essentially like, where is the company that owns the flight based? I would assume.
Huh.
But I mean, like, in
I'm
situations like that, it's like let's say like you're visiting England. Well, even then, like, pregnant people aren't supposed to fly. So
Well,
I don't
know,
think that
but like the
situation
very
comes
rare
up.
occasion. Oh no,
It happens.
like,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sure. I feel like
You're
it
not-
could have happened by now.
Yeah, it's happened. I'm sure.
I mean,
it's probably just like you go as a parent when you land, when you get back home, go to the district office and like hand you a birth certificate because,
yeah.
you know, and they just do it up
I
right
assume
there.
at that point it comes down to where like parents originated from, because like same thing with like because like if like kid's born on an army base, like even if it's in a foreign country, they're still considered a U.S. citizen. I think it would kind of come down to the same situation, like if you gave birth and like, because like the argument would be like too is
But
like if your
that
parents
army
are
base is U.S.
American.
territory. So that's where you're born on technical U.S. soil.
I would assume that maybe it's like, I'd assume there's probably a quick like path to citizenship for you for whatever your nation of origin is for like your parents.
I feel like
so like I'd
feel
assume
if
like
you were flying, if you were flying from the U.S. to like Japan or something, I feel like you would end up with a dual citizenship. I feel like you'd end up with a citizenship wherever you land and where you were from.
No, I would assume it would be, you're technically this citizen, you've got to go through them to get all the paperwork filed. So I would assume like if it came down to like, because like I said, I think it comes down to basis of your parents' origin and where they live. So like if they live in America and then they go to England and they happen to have you while they're on vacation in England, I think the path to citizenship is like probably expedited for you. So I'm pretty sure you're considered American.
And you got to think, if you could game the system and get dual citizenship that easy, there would be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You would have 9 months pregnant women like full on boarding an entire flight of pregnant women flying to Japan to try to game the system. If we can all get dual citizenship for our children, we're all trying to have this baby on the flight.
I mean, so like right now though, like I know you said like if you had the baby in England on accident or whatever, it'd still be expedited to the U.S. What would happen in like in my case, say we flew to Guatemala, she's a citizen there, and then we have she's pregnant, but we happen to have the baby there, but we want to have it up here. What is it a citizen of? The dad is U.S. and then what is that?
I would assume it falls
on the pickle.
I would assume it falls
on the pickle, bro. That's had to have happened before.
So I don't disagree, but I would argue that they would probably stick it with the mother. Because I
think so,
dude. Because like most nations are like that to a degree. Like as much as like America is like the mother, the kid. Like dude, in America, it's hard to get the kid away from the mother. I feel like a lot of other countries are kind of the same way. It's like the mother is going to take responsibility. Like that is her job.
I wonder if I could if it'd be possible to keep him as U.S. because of my citizenship, or vice versa. Like even if we wanted the other way. And we were up here. I don't know if there'd be a way to fight for one or the other.
Have to and find out. Just see what happens. Have 1 year, have one. Just see what happens. I mean, it's all, do it for the podcast, dude. Like, come on, let's get some social experiments going.
I don't know. Like,
we had a baby. You won't believe what happened.
you say it,
Not clickbait.
but like I guarantee you, like you could Google this and figure it out really quickly. Like I bet it's not
within
like
3 minutes.
yeah, it's not a situation of like this has never happened
mystery
before.
of the universe.
Yeah. Like, we never thought this would happen. We never saw this outcome.
Yes. This wasn't like, dude, like y'all get taken in by a bunch of cloaked people. Like this wasn't supposed to happen this way.
You no longer
Dude,
exist anymore.
I don't know, bro. When you sent me that picture when it was said the sun emits light and the sun is in space and it emits light on Earth, but there's no light in space.
There is. That's
did
what's,
you have to think about
oh
that?
my god!
I
dude.
did.
Oh my god!
Think about that, dude.
Like that's. Oh my god, homie! There is light and. Oh my god, dude!
It's because it's reflecting off of this, but I mean, it's also space is so big. Space is the in between. But
they're so dark.
You know what's so, dude? Other stupid stuff that I've tripped people up with. One of my old friends, we were being sarcastic about like how smart this person was. Oh, they're so smart they could do this. They're so smart they could do whatever. And I was like, yeah, he's so smart. He probably knows Obama's last name. And she was like, wait a minute. She's like, stop. She's like, what is Obama's last name? Dude, she got tripped up, dude. I died. I was like, what is his name? What is his name? It's Barack Obama. Obama is his last name.
Dude, I love tripping people up with some stupid comments like that. It's always funny to see. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Dude,
was he even real, dude?
Who knows?
That's a good question.
Or
That's
was
a
he
good
just a
question.
government plant, bro?
Could have been a deep
Good
fake.
question.
And they're developing the deep fake.
Dude, I remember I read a conspiracy down the rabbit hole that Trump was dead, Biden was dead, like all the major figures were dead because we never actually see them in public. Like it's all fake. Everyone that's like shows up is in on it. It's just like all edited in. Like, dude. Ah,
That's trippy.
dude.
Well, what's weird is like when I saw it was like, I want to say like Stephen Colbert. It sounds like a Stephen Colbert thing to do, but he had like some series, but they used deep fake technology and they had like someone who looked like Trump, but it played like a news reporter. And I was like, that's kind of weird. It's kind of like someone really could just deep fake like a political leader and say what they wanted to say.
Dude, so
I saw the deep fake of Queen Elizabeth. It was
so
the same.
what's the scariest part about that is like if the technology gets so good, we're no longer going to be able to rely on like video evidence of like crime. That's what's crazy.
Sketch.
That's what's crazy.
It's gonna go.
So
I wonder if like
It's gonna come
security
full circle.
cameras and stuff like that end up being like they have to be this poor level of quality. Because like the thing with deepfakes is like yes, they look very real, but I would almost imagine that you could look into the software of it and be able to detect like this has been edited.
You would
probably is some
Yeah,
extent.
but you have to think. You have to think at some point. This is the beginning stages of it. Give it another 10 years, it's going to be indistinguishable.
I wonder if
there's
eventually they're going to be like they have to register our faces to get like exact grooves and everything, and that's going to be like the NSA's reason. To be like, well, we didn't even know if you're a deep fake.
I wouldn't think that. Like, I think it comes down to like simple thing, and like I would almost argue like it's scary, but I don't feel like it would matter. Like because think about it, like what election cycle was it where there was the huge controversy of the dude where they made it seem like he was stealing babies and murdering babies and stuff like that. It was a huge abortion bill and had it sign off with like the head of like some department or whatever, and it was a complete deep fake, but so many people bought it, and then that YouTube channel got taken down and everything, and it was determined as it was fake. Like, but enough people had seen it. Nobody's going back to find out that it's fake. Like, that's the issue. So like for me, like I almost like would argue like it doesn't need to be that good of technology. Like, because 90% of people aren't going to be paying attention to when they're like, yeah, we've debunked this. This
Dude,
is fake.
That's true.
They're just gonna watch it
mean,
on TikTok.
Yeah.
They're just gonna be like, "Oh yeah, dude, you see that? All right, next one." Like,
yeah, dude. Like, yeah, like their channel got deleted, and like in the emails, like, stop bullying the stupid people. You can't do that. It's like, and yeah, people believe anything. I mean, there's stuff. I remember there's a video on YouTube of a guy getting eaten by an alligator. Horribly edited. I remember like so many people thought it was real, and it wasn't. Like, it didn't take a pro to know. When he goes down, he turns completely stiff, and like he bounces around like a South Park character and disappears. And I'm like, that's edited. And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, I couldn't articulate how I knew. I was like, it looks bad. It looks fake. And why would they leave an actual death on YouTube? They don't have gore.
yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, you can't see that. You can't see death on YouTube.
If it was real, like why is that a thing? So I mean, yeah, that's right. It probably doesn't have to be that good. I don't believe it.
That's what's scary about it, dude. Is that anyone could say anything. As I mean, what if like so? You're not your theory, but what you're telling us about last week about one of your acquaintances that believes Trump is going to take back the presidency and waive all credit card debt and all that. Like, what if that becomes like its own culture and someone just releases a deep fake of Trump saying like, this is a day we take it back, and like it just starts all these riots? Like, what, I mean, it may not even be Trump. I don't think Trump's that dumb. Like, I think he's playing the smart. I'm not saying he's smart, but I think he's playing the long game to try to run again, or at least to create his own party or do something major politically. He's not out of the game, but I don't think he's going to, like, the people that think he's going to take back over and he's still president. That's retarded. Like that, but someone could come out with a deep fake and be like, you know, this is terrific. I'm president again, blah, 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 blah. Anyone that disagrees, you can take them up to the police station. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, could you start riots? Yeah. You could definitely incite violence that way. I mean, amongst a lot of people, it's just, even if a deep fake comes out of like, I'm doing all this stuff, you can just rebuttal that with, okay, why hasn't it happened?
So like
I'm going to rebuttal, okay, why hasn't it happened? Like,
my argument to that would be like, yes, while a lot of people believe that, how many people actually enacted on it, right? Like, we saw the January 6th riots and stuff like that, and that insurrection happened. Like, yeah, it was a group of like a couple hundred people. And how many people were like, oh, no, he won. They're lying and stuff like that. But like, how many people didn't step up to actually, if you genuinely thought your election was overthrown, cool. Why didn't you step up against the man? Like, that would almost be my argument to like, well, all credit, like, I am president now. Like, that deep fake happens. Cool. I still don't think any of them have the like ability in themselves to step up and like, well, credit card debt is fake. Like, they can't do that anymore because like they're gonna get hit with the harsh reality. Like, no, it's still there, homeboy.
I don't know, bro.
It's gonna come full circle though, back to like you said, we can't use video evidence, we can't use audio. I mean, really, because like the Joe Rogan deep fake was spot on. The Eminem deep fake, not that bad. The Jay-Z deep fake's not that bad. So, like, your average person's not gonna know. Like, your average person.
My argument to that would be, for them to do that, they have to have hundreds upon hundreds of hours of audio of them talking to be able to do that. Like, that would be, like, the technology is just not there to where it can do it and it can learn the mannerisms. So, like, if we were to do one of, like, us, it's not gonna be that great because there's not enough information to put into it. So, like, I could see it where it's, like, more famous, prominent people, like we said, like Jay-Z, Obama, people who have done a lot in the public eye and have put a lot out to the public, like audio and video wise. Those we'll see really good ones of. So I almost wonder if there will become like a level of like immunity of like, you're this prominent in that can no longer be used against you. So wonder if that maybe becomes, I hate to say it, but I guess like a meta in crime of like, well, if I'm going to do crime, I need to start a podcast and I need to do this, and this on YouTube. I need to get to this many hours of audio of me talking and video. That way that can't be used against me as evidence. Like, I wonder if that ends up becoming like a meta in crime.
You have to be verified on Instagram. You have to be verified on social media to not be used. But here's the thing. That's right now. Give it 10 years. When you can take 5 sentences from somebody and create it. So the technology's at that point. Because we always say never it'll happen. But dude, memory cards, no, dude, forget memory cards. I mean, in a way. I got in the topic of talking about this Nokia N-Gage with somebody the other day. I don't know if y'all remember that phone that was supposed to be a console. The Nokia N-Gage? Anyway, it launched in 2003, I think, or 2007. It had 3 megabytes of memory, and it was a brick.
Nice.
Now our iPhones can have half of a terabyte. So we always say, like, it'll never happen.
My argument, like, I don't think it's feasible in our lifetime for me to see that technology develop that well. Because, like you're saying, like, I know you're going, like, hyperbolic with it and saying, like, well, what if it takes, like, 5 sentences? Like, for me, it's like, realistically, I don't think that will happen in my lifetime. Could it happen? Possibly, yes, but I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime. So it's like not a problem I'd have to deal with.
I think it could happen only. Go ahead.
The problem is technology improves by a factor every time it gets better. Not just a multiplication of 2, but to another whole entire degree. So that's why we have, there used to be drums that were like less than megabyte of memory. Now we have it on a small chip, half a terabyte. That's improved by a factor each time it does that.
I remember watching a video like in 2016 or 2015 of the guy y'all should still check out on YouTube called Let Me Know. But he had a video talking about artificial intelligence, and that's like 5 years ago now or 6 years ago. And this artificial intelligence produced its own music. It had like a piano song or something. It didn't pull it from anything. It just listened to a track and it produced its own notes, everything. Like that was 5 or 6 years ago.
That's different though. Like I don't know. I get what you're saying and the point you're trying to make, but it's
just a lower version of the same technology of taking like 5 sentences or one track.
Here would be my argument. Is like, how well can you know someone if you ask them, give me 5 sentences that describe you as a person? Because, the other thing is, I feel like there's so many variables to it, and that's why I think that technology is so far off. Because I think it comes down to, how's it going to learn your mannerisms? Because, dude, think about all the slang humans develop very, very quickly. Mannerisms, the way you speak, the cadence you speak. It's going to be hard to get that off just 5 sentences. I just don't see it as possible in my lifetime.
So I guess it wouldn't work for everyone because absolutely everyone has a social media presence. But for the most part, first world nations, most people do. So if Devin recorded a video of himself talking of just 5 sentences and describe, the most 5 sentences describe you the most and send it into this program. And then the program just used the internet and all public information available with all his social media. They could probably put together some sort of mannerism.
That's what I would think. Just taking 5 sentences though. So that's not my argument.
That's true. Okay,
I agree with you. Could that be a way that they go about doing that? Yes, but that wasn't the original argument. If you're using that argument, I could see that. Yeah, that's probably possible. But 5 sentences just based on those 5 sentences, it's too little information to go off of. My argument to that would be how much do we know about the Egyptians? They were around when people were around. They left stuff behind. Like, think about that. They left us more than 5 sentences of what they're like, what they were, and what their culture was. We still really don't know all that much, and we're not sure we're right. I can't hear you, Devin.
But you can't get an Egyptian right now and be like, hey, film this TikTok with me real quick, or hey, hop on this call with me for 5 minutes. So it's so different.
But,
I mean, we don't know what they actually said. We don't know how even the mechanisms were like, we believe they work this way. So that's a whole different ball game. But I mean, I understand what you're getting at.
Yeah.
The AI could straight up record exactly how you are, whether it's a social media or video or what.
Well, even now, I mean, think about everybody, our generation and the generation after us. When you die, your social media stays there. And people put everything on social media, dude. Like, I went, I know last time I was talking about how I deleted some of my Instagram. Dude, I went through my Facebook the other day. I deleted like 6 to 8 years worth of posts. And some of the stuff I was reading through, I'm like, why would I put this out there publicly? Why would I say this? Like, why? And like, I just kept going through and deleting years at a time. And I was like, how are people still my friends? I don't want to bring up like why this is stuff.
I don't know, bro. I'm still not done with the argument of the software, bro. Because, like, dude, think about how often we trick technology.
Why are you hung up on
I can't, dude. I'm hung up on it.
Okay.
I'm hung up, bro.
Okay, dude. God.
I can't, dude. I can't. I'm hung up, bro. I'm hung up on it.
What?
Dude, I can't describe it. Like, dude, I just have so many arguments racing in my mind against it that it's like, I'm not done. But I know it's like, yeah, we don't want to beat the same drum, but I'm like, I'm still there. I still got it. Like, it's like that. It's like when you argue with someone, there's some times that it's like, dude, I'm done arguing. I don't care anymore. But it's like, and another thing.
Yeah.
It's like an itch you can't scratch, but I'm like, dude, all right. Like, okay. I'm not done with the software.
Dude. Like, I can't help it.
How
like,
within my lifetime.
I've got to no. Well, like, even then, like, my other argument would be how easy is it to trick software already? Like, dude, people do it all the time. Like, it's not hard to trick computers.
Yeah, it's not hard to trick humans.
And my thing is, like, my thing is, like, dude, based on 5 sentences, I could game that system, baby. Like, how long does it take for some internet troll to be like, I'm going to get it to create a deep fake of me that is a completely alternate personality of me to laugh at with me and my friends?
But that's the thing. It's not give me 5 sentences to describe you. It's like, read this paragraph. So, like, when you create a font, you can display the entire flexibility of a font with 1 sentence. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. That's every letter of the alphabet in 1 sentence. So you can display that. So it's not like, and then I think about, like, how do they decide the world's fastest texter? There's a specific paragraph you have to type out. It tests all your skills in 1 paragraph. It's not like, describe yourself. I'm like, for me, I'm like, I'm a 7 foot tall black guy and I play in the NBA. You're not going to fool it like that. It would be like, read this. It'd be like, Sally sold seashells by the seashore. And then, like, something else that's kind of random. It's like, the other day I was in the park and I saw that.
So I don't disagree with you, but here's my side argument. I could create a fake accent for it, right? Like, how long, like, dude, how many people would sit there and just mess with this thing? Like, dude, I'm telling you right now, if they ever do, like, a deep fakes like that, where it's like, you read this paragraph, it's going to come through, it's going to create a deep fake of you having a conversation. How, like, dude, I'm doing a fake accent, I'm speaking at a weird cadence, like, I want to, like, I'm putting it to the test, like, how easily can I trick this system? Dude, it's the nature of man, dude. We see something, we're like, how can we break it?
Yeah.
You will make it stronger. You will make it stronger, and you will bug test it. That's fine.
Maybe that's what
you
I
gotta,
need to do.
you
I need
gotta
to be on that team.
stress test it. Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It'd be too much fun, bro. But I do. So, like, give me a highlight. Like, what was one of the dumb things you put out there that you were like, why? Like, was it something opinionated that you were like, this is stupid? Why was I so dead set on arguing with people over this opinion? Or is it like, why would I reveal that much information about myself?
There was a little bit of that. There was some stuff that was like, it's just like, okay, dude, who? Like, I get it. Anything you put on social media, you can be like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there was some stuff like that. Like I wrote like almost a paragraph of like how I was mad that I saved up some money and I bought new bushings for my skateboard and they busted and da-da-da. No one liked it. And I'm like, who does even knows what I'm talking about? And then there was like another one that was like writing a paragraph about my day skating of like, I almost had this trick. I almost had this trick. I almost had this. I'm like, nobody knows what I'm talking about. And then there were some that were like bitching, like as a teenager bitching. Like I was like mad about having to take out the trash because my stepmother at the time wouldn't take out the trash, but she would just beat on the door. Like the garbage man was coming and she just beat on. I was asleep and I woke up to her just beating on the door. And I'm already pissed. The garbage man already left. And I was really mad. And I was like, all that time you spent beating on the door, you probably could just take out the trash.
So
and like
mad.
Someone else, here's the thing, on that status, someone else commented, one of my old friends commented, she's like, you complain too much. I was like, I went through my old stats. A lot of it was me bitching, but some of them were kind of funny. I have some of them pulled up. I'm not going to share my screen, but like this one, little bit of manscaping, then I'll go see the homies. That's cool.
All right.
That one's just, you were clearly going for a joke there to weird people out, man. But that was our sense of humor of like, what can we do with someone to mess with them a little bit mentally to get them to just like question of like, why is this a sentence? Why did he put this out there? Like, why is he doing this? Like, just there's so many questions of the why is where you're just trying to lock up their brain a little bit and just kind of get them stuck.
I don't think we could ever share a quote from Clayton's Facebook.
So, and then that was another one.
Anymore, so.
Oh,
this is from 2012. Yeah, I think that one was from 2012 too. Like that was probably the highlight of me trying to be funny on Facebook. I put a quote in quotes. Quoting yourself makes you look like a douchebag, Devin.
Well,
and I quoted it.
What makes me laugh though is that became our humor. Like that's still what's funny to me now is like people who try to play that game of like, I'm going to just try to make you uncomfortable. It's like, no, you don't understand. This is like a pastime for me and my friends. You're new. You don't understand. Like Quentin's humor of like literally like loving Danny McBride because that's his sense of humor of just like, why would it ever happen like that? Or trying to out weird the situation or seeing how far he can take the situation but still keep it within like the guidelines as to where he's not going to get in trouble. Like that sense of humor that we all had of like, how far can we push this without being offensive? Like that was our true sense of humor. And then we had the other side that was like, okay, how can we just upset people?
Like there was people. Yeah, there was like some disgusting statuses on there that were just like for the sake of being gross. But yeah, I like the borderline, like you kind of push it just to see to get a reaction, but then like some people just don't get it. Like, dude, the manscaping thing, not a single reaction to it. And I'm like, that's funny. It's just subtly funny.
Yeah, it's funny for you, but no one else is going to laugh. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to admit that they laughed about it.
Well, because some people are just like, why would you tell us that? Do you really shave your pubes before you hang out with your friends? Like, that's what makes it funny, because it's like you don't care to do that. That's what makes that a joke.
Dude, so I wonder
but why would you say that?
How many in your posts that you deleted that were just like cringeworthy? Like, were there any thirsty moments that were in it that you're like, oh God, why did I think that was gonna work?
It wasn't thirsty. I wouldn't say it was thirsty, but I think one of them was like, there was some dumb stuff, like, because I was like 14, 15, 16 or whatever. Like, one was like, Halloween's coming up, bring out the slut. A lot of girls actually like that one because they're like, yeah. And then there was like, God, that was another one. Oh, it was like, I can't remember what age I was at this one, and I was like, I don't need to drown my problems in various women, but I do love these hoes. And I'm like, I just need to not do that. Let's
so prophetic at such a young age.
Right, dude. It was like I was like, why am I saying these things? But I mean, even now, like, I'm sure when I'm 30, I'm gonna look back at 24 and 25 on some of these podcasts or some of my own videos, some of my Instagram, and be like, why did I think I had the authority to say these things?
Yep.
I'm like, this is how you should think. It's like, whatever.
I mean, that's the fun of watching like podcasts, though. To me, at least, like when I watch podcasts, I enjoy the fact of like after a couple years, you can see them grow and change. Like even with Joe Rogan, like, dude, listen to him for years. You can watch him change as a person. You can see his knowledge base grow. Like that's kind of the fun to me. Like as a rational human being. Now I know a lot of people are irrational, especially on the internet. But to me, that's what I get enjoyment out of. Like when I hear someone's take on something, I don't immediately think they're right or they're wrong. I'm like, that's a cool way of looking at it, I guess. Like that's interesting. And then it'll be like 2 or 3 years later, and they're like, yeah, here's why I was wrong in thinking that. In actuality, I should have thought of it like this. That would have helped me so much better in this situation. Like that's the beauty to me.
I think, yeah, and I agree. Like it's good to change, because there was a lot of stuff in there too that I was like, I don't think this way anymore. Or, like, this is stupid, or like there was just stuff in there that I'm just like absolute cringe. But I think there's like a weird healthy balance you have to have of like you can change your mind, but it's like, I wonder what the time limit is, and like, because there's some people like I've followed on social media, they're just unapologetically hypocrites. They just don't care. They just do not care. Like literally a few days later, they will say the complete opposite, and people call them out on it, and they're just like, well, you shouldn't listen to me anyway. Like there's a certain level of like, yeah, you don't have to take my advice, but like,
well, wouldn't that be the argument of like that's what's happening now with like cancel culture? Is they're trying to figure out where that line should be drawn? Because like I feel like some people are just like, it makes no sense to cancel someone for something they said 15 years ago when they've already renounced that way of thinking, or renounced that and have already apologized for it. Yet they still go back and they're like, well, you said this one time. Like I still feel like that arc is kind of deciding itself right now. It's like figuring out at where that line is drawn.
I feel like we're kind of we're on the back end of cancel culture, because I feel like more people I talk to, the majority is like, dude, you can change your opinion, and you're not going to let some teenagers on Twitter, just because they just found out about it, decide that it's a problem.
I don't feel like it's that. I felt like it's always been that way. Like, to me, I feel like it's just that minority is getting quieter. If that makes sense.
That the majority is growing. They tried to cancel Eminem like 2 months ago over a song he did in 2010 on Recover, Love the Way You Lie, and just like everyone was on the same page. Exactly,
dude.
So everyone was on the same page of like it was the very, very last verse. He's like, if he ever tries to leave this house, I'm gonna tie her to the bed and set the house on fire. Everyone's on the same page. They're like, that was not even the worst thing he's ever said. That is like one of his softest songs on his softest album, Recovery. That is like You're just now what?
Dude, the other thing that
Listen to
gets me,
Stan.
like, so speaking on like cancel culture, what blows my mind, DMX never fully got canceled, but if you listen to the lyrics to some of his songs, it is extremely homophobic. But he never got canceled.
Dude.
But now that he's dead, everyone's like, "Oh, I loved him so much." Like they remember him for the good parts. So it's like, he was allowed to grow, and that was never thrown in his face. Like that's where, like it's weird to me. I don't understand.
Bro. It's cherry picked, and also whenever someone passes, everyone
I'm saying
adores him.
even
Jackson,
when he was alive,
died, he became a legend. Oh, okay.
Well, even when he was alive, he wasn't canceled. Like, he was doing good things in the community. Like, I by no means think DMX was a horrible person. Like, I think he grew as a person and became a better human being later in life. But what I'm saying is, like, his things he was doing in the 90s didn't get him canceled. But there are some people who, like you're saying, like, I agree with it's cherry picked. But I don't think it has anything to do with the death. I think, like, people won't bring it up now because he's dead. But like, same argument would be like, I mean, how many old statues are getting torn down? Like Christopher Columbus, like the founding fathers, stuff like that. Like, it doesn't matter if you grow and change as a person. Like, even though those people are dead, so it's like it's kind of trying to figure out where that line is for everything. That's where I'm always interested. Is like, I wonder where the line is actually going to end up, because it's not ever going to go away fully. Like, cancel culture will never go away fully, but it's where does the line get drawn as to what's acceptable and what's not.
Who draws that line? And I mean, I don't know. Like, I think it can be a slippery. Once again, we love saying this, a slippery slope, because I mean, I don't know, man. Like, we tear down all the monuments and stuff because, like, oh, they were bad people, they owned slaves and like all that. Like, I get it, but also, like, we still have to learn about all this. We can't not learn about our history and pretend like, well, they were just bad people, we're going to skip over that. We still have to understand what happened and why it happened so we don't repeat it. Like, I don't like the idea of just being like, that's bad, let's not talk about it again. Let's just, out of sight, out of mind. I feel like that could be a slippery slope.
Well, so like,
why don't we tear down Mount Rushmore?
Really?
Well, like I would assume that the argument is like some of those people also fought to free them. Like, that would be my, like, I'd have to look into it, but I guarantee you there's probably like them tearing down statues of people who fought against that, like, who realized it was wrong and got rid of it. Like, I assume there's probably people out there that's happened. But, like, it's like the argument with, like, the Confederate statues and stuff like that. It's like, dude, those weren't put up till, like, the 60s and 70s. Like, that wasn't, like... So, like, those, I'm like, well, I do think those are a valuable part of history. Like, why don't we do what we do with, like, the Holocaust? Like, why don't we just take them out of the public square and stuff like that and put them in a museum dedicated to teaching about that, of like, this is what happened, this is why it wasn't okay.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be a better use of resources and education. I agree. The Holocaust stuff is, I mean, there's multiple Holocaust museums.
So I have a question for you guys. Like, y'all have seen the flag that's like, it's the American flag, but it's black, white, and blue. Like, I guess it's for back in the blue or whatever, like for cops. So there's a person that's like in a so many mile radius, but they're flying on their flagpole an American flag that's red, white, and blue, but it looks like they've taken it down and spray painted the entire thing black, like just jet black, and then they're flying it like that. It's definitely not the black, white, and blue. You can't even see the stripe. It is the original red, white, and blue, just jet black, and they've been flying it since the end of the election. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, is that some sort of like, you don't care about the flag anymore?
It's
like,
their form of protest.
It's a distress signal. It's like, dude, I can't remember which election it was when everybody was throwing their flag upside down, because that was a distress signal.
Saw it after 2020. I saw people in my old job doing it in that town, like that. People riding around throwing their trucks upside down. And I thought that was supposed to represent if like we were in it, like, okay, yeah, it's a time of distress, or like if something happened in the military or something like that. But I don't know. That's
It's
I don't
just
know. I mean, that's the thing.
that's
People don't.
the whole point of our country, though, is like you're allowed to do those things. Like same thing with like burning the
Yeah.
flag. You may not agree with it, but the way our country is set up is that I technically have a right to do that. You don't have to be happy about it.
I just feel like the people that get upset about others burning flags are the same ones flying them upside down and spray painted black. Like they're the ones flying them in these disrespectful manners, but they're also like, don't do anything.
They don't have it's the argument of like how I say with like first person shooters and stuff like that. It's cool when you do it, but when they do it, it's messed up. They shouldn't be doing that. It's not fair. It's like it's the same thing. It just depends on what your perspective is on the situation. It's always okay when you do it because you're doing it because you believe that you should.
You have the right.
You can always justify it to yourself. Like
you justify it, yeah.
The thing that bothers me is if they have a problem with you being like bothered by it. It's like, dude, the whole point is that we're allowed to disagree on those things. That's the beauty of the country, that neither of us have a boot to our neck that is forcing us to think one way or the other.
My problem is that nobody cares about the flag until they want to turn it into something else. No one cares about until they want to flip it upside down, until they want to make it black, gray, and blue, until they want to make it a rainbow. Nobody cares about the flag. You know what I mean? So, like,
well, for me, I honestly just find it more weird when people do care about it. Like, to me, that's an out of place thing.
I don't think it's out of place. No, I'm saying that
I feel like you should care about to a certain extent.
No, we do all these things to show this is distress. Or we back this. We use it only when it's relevant. Nobody outside of that actually cares the flag. Well, that's the problem, I think. Now it's cool.
My argument as to why I wouldn't care about that or anything like that is like, it's cliche, but I mean, it's said in a lot of things. Like it's America is an idea. It's not like a flag is supposed to represent it, but at the end of the day, it's not. Like that was the whole purpose of it. Like those things are tools, but those tools don't matter. At the end of the day, it's an idea. It's a principle.
Like I'm sure if I went outside of these people's homes that have just a spray painted black one, not even the back and the police one, like just spray painted black. And if I just went out and took a knee and played the national anthem, they would probably pull a gun on me. That's disrespecting the flag, but they're flying one that's spray painted black. Like that's the kind of, like you said, Devin, like only when it matters to them is it when they're going to get upset.
We have weird traditions, man. Like the national anthem, it's at sporting events.
Yeah.
I feel like should we play it before an election? Should we play it at other things? You know what I mean? Like, should we play it like if we crushed it? Like we had a great year. I don't like. You know what I mean? Like what before football? Okay.
Well, that's just
like these men in helmets that get paid $1 million a year are going to go into combat, son.
You say that, but there's nothing to say that doesn't happen, right? Like in those proceedings, you have no evidence to say that it doesn't happen, right? It may not be televised, which you could make an argument for that, but like same thing. Like I guarantee you, I'm sure there's some, because like our whole, like think about like FFA and stuff like that. It's all built on tradition. Our government kind of runs that same way. It's built on a lot of tradition. Like when it comes to them speaking out, like when they were doing like God, why am I blanking on it? It's when they were contesting the election and they were doing the like, are we going to count these electoral votes or do we contest them? Is that contest legitimate? Now we're going to argue that. When they're reading through the exact cadence of these things, it's like at the end of the day, it could probably be solved of like, is your state good? Yep. And they could move on. Is your state good? No. Like there's things they could do that are quicker, but it's masked in tradition. They'd follow that tradition to a T. I'd assume probably I would assume they probably before meetings with like American, like the higher ups and officials, I'm sure they do like the Pledge of Allegiance beforehand. Like, I'm sure there's weird things like that they do that's just not widely advertised because we're not deeply looking into it.
Well, I mean, I was thinking like maybe they do it before sporting events because it's like maybe back in the day it was just supposed to represent like our freedom. Like, you know, hey, we're a free country. You can come here, you can play sports, worship what you want, work where you want. Like, that's what we're about. You know, let's pledge. You know, let's show our respect to the flag before we enjoy this beautiful day or whatever. I think that's maybe what it started as, but it's been taken to a different level now.
Well, it's to keep it top of mind. It's like, hey, we're about to like get drunk, eat some bad food, and watch these guys tackle each other. Keep in mind,
and somehow
you're able to do this.
Somehow, us doing that is about the veterans. Like, us because pouring millions of dollars in the stadium helps that homeless veteran down the street. That's what that's about, dude. That to me frustrates me.
I mean, you're not wrong. I think they call it good. Like, yeah, we did our part. It's kind of like one of the we did our part.
We played the song.
Like, okay. Yeah. You pipe down. Your handwriting on that cardboard could be a lot better. I'm just gonna let you know. But yeah, I feel you on that.
But
these people that are so passionate about it, it's like, go start a program to help veterans. Then, if you really feel that way, instead of just being like,
you don't understand,
this man standing on his knees causing an issue. Like that's.
But
someone else will.
Just don't.
My argument, the argument could be, well, I served, or my grandpappy served. I helped take care of him. I have helped a veteran. Like, there's always gonna be some loophole you can use to justify it. You're like, dumb, I think it's dumb that they pour millions of dollars into this. Well, it's like, okay. Well, I mean, we do it for entertainment. How many veterans would have killed themselves if they didn't find football, right? Like, there's so many dumb arguments that you could make to justify it.
That's true. That's true.
Like, there's always a rabbit hole out. I don't agree with those arguments, but it's like, I mean, it's not like they're not valid. Like, they are, as dumb as they are somewhat valid.
I don't know. I feel like people that use veterans in the military as like their argumentative points. It's just weird to me. It just bothers me. It's like you're using these people, something that you didn't do. Most of the time it's these individuals do not do these things, but they're arguing like, oh, you're disrespecting these people and what they fought for and what they believe in. It's like, you're speaking for a group of people that are not here right now. You don't know what they believe in or why they went to go fight. Some people went to go fight just because they need a free college. Or
what if I threw out an argument there of like how some countries do? What if we forced mandatory service?
If we forced it?
If we did mandatory service, like if you're well-bodied and able, you have to serve, like I think like South Korea does it. It's a minimum of 2 years of service. Like, what if we did something like that? Because, like, if we did 2 year, you don't get the benefits of being in the military if you only do a 2 year. You have to do 4 years to get any sort of military benefits. So what if we did?
Same here now. But...
What if we forced like? No, you could do 2 year contracts in the military. I know someone who got a 2 year.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought it was like 2 year on, and then 2 year like you could be called in.
So they're like 2 year total. There's 2 year active. What I'm saying is they're not having to do that. They only signed a 2 year. So yes, very
active duty.
No,
and 2 year like reserve or something.
No. I'm saying 2 years is all they have to serve. I think it's only 2 years active that they signed. Like. Now, granted, not every branch does that. Like, if you were to try to do that with the Marines, not going to happen. They're only going to do 4 years. Like, you're either doing 4 years or you're doing more than 4 years. We're not giving you a 2 year. Like, that's not how this works. But, like, you could make, like, what if we did a mandatory 2 year? Because, like, then it's like, okay, everybody's a veteran now.
Everybody's a veteran.
You lose the honor. Then, in my opinion, like, then it's like everyone's done it.
Doesn't make it any less honorable. You served your country. You did your job.
I mean, I guess you did, but then everyone would have these special privileges and be like, "You're disrespecting these special people." And like, no, I'm not. I did it too. Fuck off. Like it would. It would everyone would be the same. It wouldn't be a
Exactly.
special group.
Exactly.
of
So it would
people, like-
eliminate the argument of think of the veterans. I am a veteran. This is how I think about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have figured out a route to the problem.
But that's also like, I don't know. Everyone goes to high school.
And then there's
Think
yeah,
about
but
the
there's
high
also
schoolers.
people
I was
who,
one.
there's
Okay,
people who
you're
disagree
not
with
thinking
straight
about
up
them.
veterans though too, dude. I mean the Dakota pipeline, like with the one it was during the Obama years, but went through the Indian reservation or whatever. Like 2,000 veterans went to protest it, but most people who were like for veterans were like, "Oh, they're dumb. They shouldn't do that." Or like,
It's learning.
after
Learning
George
very
Floyd-
quickly that you shouldn't
There's-
generalize veterans. They're still individual people.
Hold on.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
can-
After
you
George,
can-
go ahead.
That doesn't. No, you can I can disagree with you, but still support a totally different. That is disagreeing with their stance on a political issue versus they shouldn't be funded and they should starve.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's totally different. You know
That's
what I mean? Like, I
true.
can
Okay, I
just
see what you're
disagreeing on an issue. That's not hating
That's what
veterans.
you're
That's
saying.
just like that's trying to paint it that way. Not you, but that was a narrative. Like, well, so you're disagreeing with the veterans? Like, okay, I see what
I
you
see
did
what you're
there.
saying. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, because I was thought of
Yeah.
another one of a guy who like took a knee in front of some I think it was like an unknown veterans like burial ground or whatever, but it was after the George Floyd killing. But he took a knee, and I saw it on Reddit for like 6 hours or 8 hours until his shoe, like the plastic melted to the concrete. Like people were coming up and taking photos of him. And I just thought that was really interesting.
Oh,
but he
that
got a
was,
lot of hate for it.
I want to say that it was a Marine.
It was a Marine, and a lot of people enjoyed it, but he got a lot of hate for it. And I just thought that was like, I don't know. But I guess I see what you're saying. That's a political stance. They're not saying they hate him. They're just a political stance. I see what you're saying.
It's always, and there's always, you always have to look for how the narrative's being painted. There was I saw an article today. It was like, man walks into a house naked, like where there's like a little girl, and a former inmate kills him. But if you break down really what happened, it's like you kind of twisted the narrative. And the guy who killed him, the inmate who lived in the house, is a black guy. Okay? You could see how the narrative could get twisted. It's like, no, the guy who entered the house naked is a pedophile. The former inmate, I mean, I guess that makes the title more clickable. He saved the day by killing that pedophile. So why did you paint the pedophile as a guy walks in naked, and then the guy who saved the day is former inmate? Why was like you could have even said former inmate kills pedophile in house. I don't know, but you just said he's a guy. No, he's a pedophile.
I mean, that's just manipulation tactics, though. It's not that it's. The argument is like when it comes to media and stuff like that, morality is. You don't gauge it off morality. You gauge it on what's going to get people to notice. Like if it bleeds, it leads, right? It doesn't come down to morality.
I mean, people like there's never I've never heard of a news channel that talks about good things. I think maybe sometimes like Channel 5 at the end of their news will be like, here's something that's great about America.
Yeah,
like
they
a
have
30-second
one feel-good story.
Yeah, and then that's it. But it's like I wonder how different people would feel about their neighbors if we had a channel that was dedicated to like, here's all the good stuff that's happened this week or today or stuff that's being accomplished, other than just like, here's where we're screwing up, here's all this horrible things, look at all this death and violence, and we're just like, man, this sucks.
I mean, it'd be interesting to look at, but my problem, like the reason why it could never be is because people aren't interested in seeing that.
I feel like people are more interested than you think, dude.
How many subscribers does the Uplifting News Reddit have? And I think it would be cool to shift that way.
Like
and
Mr. Beast,
because
he's uplifting. I mean,
my thing is though, like side argument to that would be like, okay, I watch Mr. Beast, but I also watch a majority of like Philip DeFranco or other like sources of news that are media that are down. I'm not saying that it doesn't have a market, but what I'm saying is like given the choice, still I feel like a majority of people are going to be watching the other news.
For sure, dude. You want to know what the real stuff is going on, but you also
Not the real
I
stuff. You
remember.
want drama. You want misery.
Well, I don't know. Like, I don't think we should stop reporting what's really going on. But I just remember during, I think it was Hurricane Harvey, the one that hit Houston or whatever. And, it was during Trump. But I remember there was just a lot of tension after, because correct me if I'm wrong, Clay, but is Hurricane Harvey, was that after Charlottesville? I believe, because Charlottesville was 2017 and Harvey was 2018, or am I wrong? I might be wrong.
think you're right. I think Harvey.
What?
No. It would have been Harvey would have happened in 2017.
So they were around the same year. I just remember feeling a lot of tension after Trump got elected
actually,
between
you might be right.
between white people and blacks and Hispanics and just minorities in general. Like even at my job, I remember like people getting like customers getting tense with each other. But I remember they like Channel 5 did some like feel good story about that in Houston, and it showed pictures of people of all different types of races and ethnicities and whatever, like helping one another, pulling each other out of these horrible places, cleaning up all these houses, and even post hurricane, like helping build all this stuff. Like it was a very much like, wow, there's still people who look past everything, even in a place like Texas that's considered horrible when it comes to that.
Once again, I don't know. Like it depends on how you yourself view the world, right? Glass half full, glass half empty. Like it's like how many people think we're in like an impending war with China? I'm not saying that. I don't believe that's ever going to happen because I look at a majority of people and I see good and I see a majority of people don't want conflict. Like it's that's like if you use these generalities and you let this fear control you of like, oh, the world's such a bad place, God, oh, we got to be careful of these kind of people. We have to be careful of these kind. Like you can't use generalizations. Like you. As hard as it is, you've got to look at it as individuality. So, like, when it comes down to, like, positive news and stuff like that, yeah, it's cool, but it also comes down to mindset as well. Like, people are going to look at what they want to look at. And, like, with the Facebook...
Also, their mindset's molded by media, though. I mean, and to a certain degree.
Thank you. I was about to say that the media controls that, and so does your algorithm. You tell it what you want to see, and then it recommends better things.
That's what I'm saying.
So the misery...
You look at it and that becomes what you're most focused on. Like you pick to watch that content and then it gets suggested back to you. And it's not like it's just a thing that like, well, we're being manipulated into it. It's like to a degree, yes, but you're also the reason the slope happened like that.
I just feel like the media, it manipulates a lot of like hate. A lot of hate between people, like citizens that we have, and those feel good stories, at least me personally, it makes me realize like, well, there's not so much. I don't know. Like when it comes down to it, like people will help each other.
My argument would
be the same effect.
If you're willing to let media control you like that, like I'm sorry, like we just
not me as an individual, but most people in this country and in the world are controlled that way, dude. That's the thing.
Everyone is.
Yeah,
everyone is. Everyone's everything. It's not because I mean I know we don't watch regular TV cable for the most part. Ours is just transitioned to YouTube and the phone and Netflix and Hulu. It's all a thing. Yeah, we're still controlled that way.
Still media.
So it's just whatever medium. And even but here's the reverse effect. Here's the same effect on a different thing. It's all the bad news. They view the world that way, right? Terrible. But even you're like, when I see an uplifting story, it makes me feel better. It's the same thing. The exact same thing. That's the inside out of your T-shirt.
Yeah, that's the inverse, same thing. Yeah. I mean, that's my thing. It's like, dude, it just all comes down to how you view it as a person. Like, dude, I never once, anytime I watch anything going on in the news, I'm never like, oh my God, the world's about to end. I look at it like, huh, that's wild. Okay.
Not so much about the end, just, move on. Just how people are, like how stuff will happen in the news, and I can see it in public. I can see people reacting to that even in public with other strangers. Like I just remember right after Trump was announced as president, but we were like in the November, December of 2015 or 2016, going into 17. And I remember being at work, and a black dude walked in with his pants were sagging down, and a white dude walked in and just walked over and just stared at him. And they were like 3 feet apart. He's like, "Do you have a problem?" He's like, "Yeah, I got a problem. You got to pick those pants up, boy." And he was like, "Excuse me?" Like he was just shopping, like nothing was going on. And he was like, "You better pick those up." He's like, "I'm not going to." He's like, "This is how I'm gonna wear them." And he's like, I'm an off-duty police officer, boy, and you better listen to me." And then he put his hand on his hip. And me and my coworker just look at each other like, what the hell is about to happen? And then the black dude with the pants, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna get big with me, boy." And they just start going. I'm like, this is days after Trump was announced as president. I'm like,
Okay.
never had like that was so tense. I'm like, it's crazy how much
Here's
that
my
trickles
argument
down,
to that,
dude.
though, is you are looking at that and giving yourself confirmation bias of that happened because Trump was elected. Dude, that
I
situation,
feel like it did, dude.
that
I
situation
feel
has
like it
happened
did.
before, is what I'm saying. Like, that situation still happens. It's just because you've been manipulated to believe that's how it is, and that's the reason why it is. Like, it's literally like looking at it and be like, dude, it's so crazy. It's like, no, you're just seeing more crazy stuff. Like, you're just seeing it. Like, it doesn't mean that it was never happening before.
I mean, we weren't having insurrections before, but
Granted,
Okay.
that was a little
one.
like,
That's one.
don't get me wrong, like that was a little wild, but at the end of the day, like I still looked at it and I was like, dude, those are the outliers. That's really how I look at it. It's like those were the outliers because like I said, dude, like, okay, think about how many people were so upset by that, and like as much as we're like, yeah, the Proud Boys, the militia groups, like they're clearly not that dedicated, because why weren't they there? If this was such a huge deal, like it's still the outliers.
I don't blame it on any of them, dude.
I hate
Trump
to
was
say
just
it.
straight up like, let's go take it to the house.
Oh no, but to me it's like the inside of me is just like, it's understanding that 90% of people are pussies. They say stuff and they put on this charade, but when it comes down to brass tacks, they're not willing to do it. And it's understanding.
Dude,
that.
nobody wants to smoke. That's why.
That's my argument. Some people are
Go
willing
ahead,
to get the
say
smoke
it.
on stupid things.
Well, I was just gonna say, like during the Oregon riots or protests or whatever you want to call them, I don't know if y'all remember. Like, I remember seeing posts on Reddit
I think you mean
about people
occupation.
like they, huh?
Are you talking about like Chaz and all that, where they literally like occupied Portland?
Oh, well, yeah, basically that time when everyone was getting thrown in unmarked vehicles and stuff, protesters were getting arrested. I mean, journalists were getting arrested, like the most un-American moment ever in modern day history, and no one gave a crap. But I forgot where I was going. Damn it, Wag.
We were like nobody wants to smoke, and you're like, oh, Oregon.
Oh.
You're talking about the fact that majority of people, I don't believe, have it in them to do anything. They're pussies. They're not down for it.
Oh, I lost it, dude.
Well, I mean, either way, if you want to elaborate, like on the
Because
Oregon situation,
Wagner had to correct you. You said Oregon. He said Portland, which is the same place. Portland is in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I asked for
no,
clarification on the location. My bad.
No,
Damn.
you were like,
I'm not letting this
slide. I'm not letting this slide that you could call that Oregon, even though it's the same place.
I couldn't do it, bro.
I can't remember, bro. I can't remember now. I don't know what I was going to say.
But either way, talking about that, like you're talking about how un-American it was for reporters to get snatched up and stuff like that. And
that is bad, dude. In unmarked vehicles with unmarked police officers.
Here's my thing. Oh my God, it's so bad. Well, it's funny you didn't say anything when those laws got put into place. You didn't care then. Like, my thing is, like, do I think it's wrong? Yep. Cool. The people who were around and voting during that failed. Like, I look at it and I'm like, nothing they were doing. Like, if you noticed, none of those people in the federal got in trouble. None of them got reprimanded or anything like that. They were all operating within the bounds of the law. You may not like the law, but you're not doing anything to change it.
I mean, sometimes, bro, stuff just gets passed through. It's just like the abortion thing in Texas. I mean, There wasn't like some vote with the citizens. Like it just got pushed through with the state legislators. But I don't
And
really know about that with Oregon. I really don't know how
my
that works.
my side argument to that would be like, you elected that person.
You could just keep
I
breaking
didn't
it
read their
down.
Exactly,
mind.
bro.
I didn't. Okay, I didn't read their mind. I was like, I know what you're gonna do years in the future. It'd be different if
Hold
it
on.
happened right
So
after.
you're
taking
telling
seats.
me-
It'd be like, okay,
You're telling me you didn't think a Republican would take an attack at abortion. You're telling me you
Oh, no,
like
definitely.
if
No,
you meet a
no,
Republican, you're
nope,
telling me
hold
you
on.
can't tell me
Stop.
what his stance would be on that, right?
I've actually learned some
no,
very
that's not what I'm
disturbing
saying
news
at all.
about it.
I'm saying like, no. It was a surprise to everyone. The fact that he pushed it through and that the way it was worded too. It was not like that.
Have y'all heard that other states are passing it now? Other southern states. Clayton was on the ball, dude. They are going for a Roe v. Wade turnover. Like other states are just
Alabama
topping
started
it
this
off.
kick, dude.
Yeah, dude. I was like, dang, you're on the ball about that, bro. And then there's one other thing. What was it? Oh, so I've learned some kind of scary news about it. But apparently, if the Roe v. Wade is turned over, so the argument's always like, oh, abortion, like it's just for people just use it for birth control. Well, so like if a woman has to choose between having a baby or killing the baby and keeping her own life, like she's going to lose her life if that baby's born, there'll be an investigation. If a woman has a miscarriage, there will be an investigation if she did something to herself to kill that fetus, even if there's nothing that happened. Oh. That's sketchy, dude. That is sketchy. Like that can open up so much. Like
I mean,
you
my
have
thing
no
is
power anymore.
like I look at it kind of like the prohibition, right? Like I know it's not going to go to that degree, but as an example of like, okay, you want to play this game, we'll find ways to get around it. Because like here's the thing, it's like, oh, it's within 6 weeks. Okay, well if I find out I'm pregnant and I just decide to binge drink, how are you going to prove that I found out before that, right?
That's the scary thing, though, is like, say, like, you never knew you were pregnant and you're past 6 weeks and you're drinking. Well, you have severe pains and like, you go to the hospital, you have a miscarriage or like that's what happened. Say you had a miscarriage at home and the hospital's like, yeah, this is what happened. There's an investigation that can take place. If Roe v. Wade's turned over, that will take place and be like, why did you drink this alcohol? Did you do this on purpose? Did you harm this child? Like the child has more rights than the woman almost that's unborn. It's crazy, dude.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I mean, like I said, it was just a ploy to try to overturn Roe v. Wade. It's just hoping that these people don't go to the maximum and be like, yep, 6 weeks is the one. And it all comes down to which one gets to the Supreme Court first, too. Because if one gets to the Supreme Court, and like I think Alabama's is like 15 weeks is what they're going for. Like just 1 week shy is what they went for, but theirs is actually getting to the Supreme Court, to my knowledge. If theirs gets there first, there's already going to be a ruling in place, so it's going to be harder to overturn those other ones.
Dude, my argument to abortion is just like gun laws. Like when people are like, you're going to put on gun laws, criminals still get guns. You're going to put on abortion laws, people are still going to get abortions. They're just going to get them in a lot worse ways. Like these people that want them and are using them for birth control are going to find a way to use them for birth control, whether it's legal or not. Because I was watching this one interview of this woman saying, like, if you are in a late term and you have to get an abortion, like if it's for a miscarriage or it's like your life or the baby's, and you and your spouse have to make a decision, like it's not an easy process. It's 3 days long to get an abortion, like I think it was a second trimester for it or something. Like it's 3 days long and you don't get to stay there. You have to go up there, go back home, go up. And it's painful. Like if someone's doing this, they definitely don't care about that child and they're going to find a way to do it, whether it's legal or not. So why are we getting rid of it?
And it's
just like, it's the same.
It's not like they paint it. And here's how they love to paint it. They love to paint it like, well, I don't want some girl showing up in the clinic and be like, I just got Cayman last night. Y'all want to take this baby out of me? That doesn't
That's
happen.
what they think it is.
That's not how that works at all. It is a very traumatic and heavy decision. Like I knew a couple that did it. There was a lot, okay? And it's not just that.
I mean, my
It's not.
my argument to it at the end of the day is understanding I am not smart enough to determine when it's okay. 3 months is close enough for me. At the end of the day, if you want my honest opinion, it's personal choice. If the baby hasn't been born yet, in my personal opinion, it's your choice. And if you want to take it and argue that a little bit, cool. I will settle on the fact that if you take it out of my body, can it live on its own?
No.
Like, that's my
someone's
thing.
Got to take care of it.
Yeah, so that's where I come down to the simple fact of, like, I am not smart enough to educate this, and I don't think there is a right answer, and everyone else seems to think they got the answer.
I just think it's a little sketch, like, on the women's rights part. Like, we're in 2021, and that's a heavy toll that's about to be taken, dude. Like, the idea to me, just alone, the miscarriages in women that have birth, like, at risk, like, if you have your child, you could die. You know, let's decide. You were the kid. Government officials are saying, like, you don't have that decision. That child has a right over you. It's like, if that's true, why do we give old people vaccines? Let's just give the young people vaccines. If the young ones are all that matters, like, what? I don't get it, dude. It's weird.
So, hey, you better invest in see if any condom companies have IPOs. I was about to say,
I mean, this is. But this is the thing that, like, it's just understanding human nature to a degree, dude. Humans are hypocrites. It's like, just like we say, it's only to benefit themselves. Like, a majority of people will make a decision based on themselves because that is survival instinct. Like, your survival instinct is not to protect everyone else around you. It's to protect yourself the most. And now we're trying to fight against that.
And also, there's still going to be doctors that want to make money on the side, tax-free, on the low. Like, what? It happened in the 20s and 50s, and like, why would it happen now? Yeah.
bootleg, like a speakeasy for abortion. Like, you slid over.
Those used to be
like,
real.
What's the magic word?
That's why people always have
for alcohol,
the coat hangers in the alleyways. Like, no, with abortions, like, not speakeasies, but back in the day, like, you would go.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, they had like doctors in the basement. Bro. It was incredibly risky, and a lot of people died from it.
It's terrible,
that
but that's why the dark humor of a hanger. That, you know, I'm gonna take a hanger at you, baby. You know, that's where that comes from. That's how they killed them. Not an easy process.
But like, my thing is like, so
code word Mother Goose.
It's just essentially. It's gonna just keep pendulum swinging back and forth to one side or the other, like we always see. So it's like, oh, well, they overturned that. Okay, cool. Well, what's to stop the Democrats from waiting till they have a majority on the Supreme Court and just slamming it back the other way to the nth degree, right? So it's like,
and dude, to me, that's what's scary is people aren't about, like, let's find a good solution. Kind of like what you say, Clayton. Like, let's figure out a good middle point.
Yeah,
people are very much like, oh, the pendulum's over here. When we get power, dude, I remember working with my aunt, and I remember her saying that. Like, she's heavy liberal. I remember she was like, Trump's so hardcore right. I just feel like I have to swing very much left to balance it out. And I'm like, that's the problem. Is every cycle, everyone's like, we just got to swing hardcore one way or the opposite of this way, and it's going to balance out. But it just makes these extremities on both sides. Yep. No compromise.
I mean, it's just how people work, bro. It's unfortunate that it works that way, but I mean, I always take solace in the fact that I won't be here forever, so it won't affect me forever.
You should run for Mayor Wagner.
I'm pretty sure the town that I'm in actually has a Democrat as a mayor.
Hey, run in as a Republican and unseat him.
If anything, I'd run as an independent. I wouldn't want a party tie to one side or the other.
That's true. I could see as independent, or I could possibly see as libertarian.
But no.
Really?
Dude, I'm for open borders and everything like that, and I'm not libertarian at all. I am very much
for open borders.
Yes. My like, if I go full libertarian, my argument is everyone should have personal freedom. Like,
you mean between countries or between, what do you mean?
Like, if I'm a libertarian, libertarians rely heavily on the free market as part of their stance. that completely contradicts them wanting to have closed borders. Because in actuality, if you believe in a true and free market, the best person for the job, regardless of where they were born, should get that job.
So why would you not run a libertarian if you believe that?
But hold on, why is that not just one argument? Why is that just like, well, I have this one banger for this argument? It's like, why you can be a belief system and just not agree with one part of it. Like,
yeah,
I don't see why one thing would stop you if that's how you majority feel. If you don't majority feel that way, I get that. But even as a Republican, you talk to a Republican, they're like, I'm like 80% there. You talk to a left, they're like, I'm like 70, 80% left. No one's or it's rare to find 100%.
So this is where it comes down to too, is like, if I ran as independent, if I run as independent, if I ever want to propel my career further than that, I'm not going anywhere with it. Because like politics is very much
you have to have a party.
All Republicans may not agree on certain subjects, but if I want my bill to get passed for my people that really helps my constituents, that's going to get me reelected, I have to work with these people and toe the line on that, regardless of whether we actually agree on that, where I'm actually from. Like, it's just, I could not do politics. One, because I'm too blunt of a person and I do not word stuff extremely well. I am a blunt instrument when it comes to my opinions, and I don't care who I upset most of the time, and that's not good for a politician. I also stumble over my words and stuff like that. Like, I may have stances, but I'm also smart enough to understand that my stances really don't mean much because I'm not overly educated on all these positions. I'm just willing to admit that I don't have the answer, and that's not what people want to hear.
They want someone who's like 100%, this is my stance.
Someone with conviction.
Answer. Yeah.
Well, like you said, he can't play politics. That literally is like, I got to play to this party, that's politics. It's literally the word.
Yeah, that's not something I will do. I don't do that. I think my way, regardless of whether you like it or not.
I was telling Selena, I feel like I could play politics because we had went to like one of her family events, and there's like tension between siblings and stuff, and like all this and that, and like I'm the only white dude there, but I'm just like, you know what? We're gonna alleviate this tension real quick. And I just walked up to everyone. Hey, what's going on? I had a quick conversation with each person and just maintained it with each person throughout. And I was like, at the end, when we got in the car, I was like, I should be a fucking politician. I was like, I made that pretty smooth, and she like really did.
See, I look at that, but out of politics, honestly, I could see Devin being like able to do it the most.
Definitely, dude. Charismatic.
Just because, yes, like it always comes down to charisma. It doesn't come down to actually what you believe or anything like that. Like, be willing to sell out, baby. That's all you got to do.
Sell out, dude.
I'm not saying that you would sell out, but I'm saying. Like, I could tell you're thinking, like, I wouldn't sell out, but my thought process is, like, you're highly charismatic. Like, if anyone were to have a chance of actually getting elected, it would be you, but we'd have to break you in certain things. It's like, no. You can't do that. You have to be willing to say this, this, and this. Like, this is the safe way to say it. Like, we would have to force
he would be good at backlash. Very quick on your feet. Like if you had to do a public forum, like, no. What about this, and this? And they're just like, all right.
But the other thing is Devin has the slight problem of like, if someone's stupid, he has to make them understand why they're stupid. He can't let it go. It's a complex of his.
Do you understand why you screwed up?
Dude, right? I think that goes away as the older you get. Because I'm slowly on the decline of that. I'm like, dude, I'm not. I don't care anymore. Like, it's like, it depends on what it is. Now I'm just like, all right. Yeah, it's the thing. But I mean, also, you got to have somebody who wants to do it. I like talking. Yeah. I'm interested in what might come out of my mouth off the top of my head. I am. That might sound that might sound conceited and that might sound whatever, but anybody who talks knows what I mean. They're like, oh yeah, I like when I'm in the moment. They get it, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
sometimes
you also have
when
to
you
learn
have
how to
best
trust.
thoughts.
Yeah, well, and also like that's my thing. I need something to bounce back off of. Like sometimes my hardest stuff, like when I'm trying to think of stuff, is like creating something out of nothing. But in a group of people, I can start like I can bounce. You know what I mean? I have something to work with. I have like a little bit of Play-Doh. So like that's one of my problems. I need some like Play-Doh. You know, again, it always comes back to like I don't want to do politics. I hate playing politic games because I've had to do it for so long, quote unquote. What feels like so long to me, which is like a short time to an older guy. I'm like, I'm already tired of playing politics. Like this young,
you're not even in it.
I'm like,
yeah, just corporate level.
Yeah, corporate politics. It's like that gets old really quick. So it's like, that's the thing I think about a lot. I'm like, wow, this is what it is everywhere. So, but
that's. All right, guys. I guess that's a good place to end it. I don't know what we ended on, but that works for me.
That works, dude.
Yeah. So this has been Nobody Named Kevin podcast number 15. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.